Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
We got a football game that we didn't like. Dan, can you see me okay? We were having technical problems before.
I see you now, thankfully.
Okay. You're an audio man. You're not in the world of video. So everyone that has joined us now is getting a treat. We get to see Dan in his own home, and behind him, hold that camera up so we can see who is behind you. That's Jay Cutler, right?
Yeah, that's a Cutler fathead.
I didn't think it was Danny Trevathan.
No, it's not. I don't think he's played but in like one game with number 6. So
yeah, another one of Ryan Pace's great decisions, which is why this roster is depleted so much, because he signs worn-out veterans. Even Jimmy Graham shouldn't be on this roster, costing this team $9 million when you could be developing Jesper Horsted. What are you doing here? As Draft Dr. Phil would say. What are you doing? Anyways, the Chicago Bears won on Thanksgiving, and I'm complaining. I start the show by complaining, but that is because this is not sustainable. Management has to make major changes, and I'm happy Matt Nagy won, and I want everybody to win on this team. I want them to develop a winning culture. I don't want Cole Kmet and David Montgomery to just be intoxicated with losing and not giving effort. This was good that they won, but don't make any mistake. The fact that the game was even this close was another indictment on Pace and Nagy. What are your thoughts, Dan Aguirre?
I'm going to go the antithesis of what you said.
Ooh, I love
and
it.
Acknowledge that to close the game, they had, I think it was 18 plays. Mm-hmm. And what was it, 6, 7, 8 minutes of possession?
Correct.
And the Lions didn't even touch the ball.
Correct.
Now, granted, Nagy made it difficult by wasting a timeout when Campbell was trying to take his last timeout, and they had 12 men on the field. But okay, fuck it. Somehow we survived.
Yeah.
And, oh, my God, if Santos would have missed that or a bad snap or something,
It
I would have cried. And I don't cry when we lose.
Poetic. You would have cried, and I know you would have. And I would have said, that's poetic. I mean, this is exactly what this team is. But I'm happy that they won. Well, I expected them to lose. In fact, I put $25 on the Lions to win. So I think, the Lions to win. So I lost that, but that's fine. That's $25. I can make up, looking for loose change in my wife's car or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm happy for the guys in that locker room. I'm especially grateful that they are playing hard. Greg Gabriel just tweeted out to that arse. I know he didn't. No, he wrote, this arsehole that said Nagy lost the locker room is an out-and-out liar. A team that doesn't care about their coach plays with little to no effort. There has never been a lack of effort on this team. Now, clearly, Greg is referring to Allen Robinson's co-host on his basketball podcast. He was the one that leaked that out. So it didn't look like the players had quit on Matt Nagy today, right, Dan?
Well, no. Do you think that Robinson is the source for the podcast information?
Wow, that would be duplicitous. Now, he did meet the media, and he was asked that, did he speak on your behalf? And Robinson, I didn't see the video on it, but I read the quote. He says, "I speak for my own damn self." So if he's a damn good liar. he knows how to deny like any good married man does. How you doing, buddy? It's so good to see you.
Yeah, it is good to see you. Like I said, I only had 3 hours of sleep, but the win makes up for it. I mean, I'm happy. I'm probably going to sleep as soon as this is over, but yeah.
Yeah, me too. Trust me. What did you like about the game? And then I'm going to pick a little fight with you a little later, but let's stay on the positive trend. What did you like about what the Bears did today? And if I interrupt you at all, it'll only be because somebody important is at the podium. Okay.
I understand. What did I like about it? First and foremost, the win in that long possession. I don't mean to be repetitive, but those are the things that stood out to me. For the most part, it seemed like Robert Quinn was still getting pressure. So he's had a phenomenal season. I didn't think we didn't run the ball successfully, at least as successfully as I'd hoped, given Detroit's defense's struggles against the run and how good Montgomery was in week 4. But it's hard for me to nitpick. I mean, like you mentioned, Jimmy Graham, is good to see him catch a ball. Mooney's dropping too many passes, but he caught a couple big ones. Dalton looked good.
Yeah,
Cairo.
This is Cairo Santos speaking to the media right now. Let's see if we can hear him.
Only has encouraging things to say, so hearing that from him,
it's very low.
Sparks your confidence.
I can boost it up anyway.
I don't think so. That was a kick that I had to try different steps for sure. Just a bit outside of the range there in that situation, in that weather. So I try, who knows if I would have caught it perfectly. So I try to kind of kicking off, doing kickoff steps on that. But it didn't affect how, when I came back and practicing and how I've been hitting warm-ups.
All right. I don't know. Could you hear any of that?
I could when I put the phone up to my ear. Yes.
Okay. Well, and he was talking about the missed field goal, and the bottom line with Cairo Santos is that he is a very good kicker. He could end up being in that Robbie Gould mold, and so we should not worry about the fact that he's missed. 3 out of his last several kicks? One of those being an extra pointer shouldn't be an issue. You agree with that?
I was worried during the game. Like I said, man, it seems like he's in a slump now. So I didn't think the kick was a gimme. I knew it was only 28 yards, but I was still afraid something could go awry, given Nagy's bad luck, honestly. Even if we don't like him, he seems snake bitten. So it felt like Cairo could miss that, or there'd be a bad snap or something. So, but I was good. It's so good that he made it. I'm so happy.
Yeah. John Hagan says Chicago Bears didn't win. Detroit Lions lost the game 16-14, 6 offensive holding penalties, 2 third and 32s. Johnny, you're absolutely right. You can't feel too happy about this. It's like I say in the open, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they sucked. Yeah, they played the absolute worst team in the National Football League and one of the worst teams of the last 10, 15 years, in my opinion. This is a really bad team. Lack of talent. I'm talking about the Lions. Lack of talent, poor, awful quarterback play, and even worse coaching. We saw the timeouts that they were taking. We saw the disarray. This is a very emotional and likable coach for Dan Campbell, but he is in way over his head. That franchise made a huge mistake when they hired him. So things could actually be even worse in Chicago, but not that much.
If I could interject,
please.
I'll disagree with you because, again, we were without our best wide receiver, Allen Robinson, who's had a down year, but nonetheless, we were without Roquan Smith, who hurt his hamstring. We're without Khalil Mack, without Akeem Hicks. I mean, come on. I mean, I know that they're 0-10 or 0-9-1, whatever the fuck it is, but hey, we did win the game. And no one's saying, oh, the Bears didn't lose to Baltimore or to Pittsburgh. Like, they shouldn't have an L. We got L's for those games, and we should have won those. So I don't think we should apologize for winning today for anything.
Well, and I don't think we're apologizing. I think we're commending the Bears, but also just, say, let's pump the brakes here. Anytime you scout a player, you've got to also assess, well, what's the competition he's going up against? And that's true. And that's the same thing with today. What's the competition? That the Bears should have been ahead at the half, 21-7, or maybe even 24-7. They were in the red zone twice and screwed up. And so the Bears should have been in control. And when the defense started faltering there early in the second half, I tweeted out, this is what you get. This is what you get when your offense puts the defense to sleep. But to Andy Dalton's credit and so forth, they were moving the ball. They just weren't scoring points.
Yeah, Dalton had over 300 yards. That was impressive. He had a couple of runs when he needed to. But like you said, he had that dumb pick in the end zone. That's something like if Mitch would have thrown that would have been such a huge deal. We'd be all over him. If Rex would have thrown that. But, he did enough. I don't know who will start against the Cardinals. I know we'll be wearing the orange jerseys. But I still think we need to run David Montgomery more. I think there's too much passing. Dalton had close to 30 attempts in the first half.
Yeah, that's right. They were throwing the ball more, and I think that was almost a bravado thing on Nagy's part, because while he wasn't calling the exact plays, he probably told Bill Lazor, I want a more aggressive offensive play calling. And if my speculation on that is correct, then it's just stupid with the Lions having given up so many yards on runs. They were like the 30th ranked team coming into today against their defense. So it didn't make any sense to me that they were throwing so much. I just have that gut feeling that Matt Nagy wanted to show off that passing offense. And of course, the veteran Dalton knows it better than Justin Fields right now and has some of those, muscle memory things. Dalton did a good job of holding the ball. He got really good protection. And so he was able to make decisions downfield. And when those decisions weren't open, Dalton even tucked the ball under and ran. So when we talk about Justin Fields, those are the things that he's going to need. He's going to need that type of protection that the Bears offensive line gave Dalton today, and then he's going to have to make good decisions downfield. Look for that first read, look for that second read, look for that third. He's getting stuck somewhere between first and second reads. You haven't seen a lot of big plays, explosive plays from Fields from those second and third reads, but that's going to come. If you believe in this quarterback, Justin Fields, you got to believe that that's going to come with more experience. So having said that, you asked the question, Dan, you don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback. If the doctors tell Matt Nagy and the Bears, there's no danger of him furthering the cracks. These cracks are so microscopic on his ribs. There's no concern that he could get another injury that would be dangerous to him. would you then play him?
I want him going to Green Bay. I
It's
want
like-
him going to Green Bay the week after. I wouldn't mind sitting him against Arizona.
Okay. I like that thinking. You're absolutely right. I would love for Justin Fields to start that tradition. You know, he's already had one game against the Packers, and now continue to start a tradition of playing against the Packers, knowing the pressure involved with that, and hopefully getting his first win in his rookie year.
And they attributed a quote to him recently saying that the rivalry is about to flip.
Oh, that's
there
right.
was a meme made out of it. So yeah, I want him to be ready for Green Bay.
Mhm.
If he's ready against Arizona, so be it. But if he's still sore, I start Dalton.
I agree absolutely. You know, the kid. Here's another question. I was going to tweet this out, but I didn't get a chance to. Do you believe that Justin Fields became a better quarterback today? And what I mean by that is by watching on the sideline and watching the veteran Andy Dalton play, do you believe that he actually got better, or would he have gotten better if he was actually playing in the game? Your thoughts?
My analogy is this: I can't cook for shit. Today's Thanksgiving, right? So I've watched many, many meals be prepared in my life. And maybe if I'd have been more hands-on and said, hey, let me come in here and try to learn this myself, maybe I could cook well. So to me, he's the chef, but he's standing on the sidelines in my metaphor. So to me, he gets better by playing. That's my opinion.
I'm with you. I think there was a day in an age in the NFL where you could get better by being on the sidelines and holding the clipboard. But those days are gone because offenses in the NFL have adapted so much of the college game. And the rules have also helped young quarterbacks get better acclimated to the game. So there's better opportunities for good pass protection and so forth. So yeah, there's no doubt in my mind, he would have learned more by actually playing those 4 quarters against the Lions and probably getting his second win against the Lions, because I don't think that he would have, I think that may have even been, you and I were at the Lions game at Soldier Field. Do you think it's possible that Justin Fields could have built on that performance and had an even better game than what Dalton had today?
At this point, I don't know, because I thought that they had some momentum coming out of Pittsburgh, and he played so terribly against Baltimore. Baltimore's defense on paper sounds like, ooh, it's the Ravens, but they're not really the Ravens of the past. That defense isn't great. So his performance was jarringly bad to me against Baltimore. But again, having said that, I still want him to be the guy moving forward, of course. But Dalton played well. I think, I don't know if Fields could have played as well as Dalton did today, with the exception of that pick 6. That's the only thing Andy's got against him today, blemish-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, we'll probably, Danny Shimon and I will look at the tape, and then we'll do a Bare Truth next week to explain what he saw on the play and see what kind of opportunities Dalton may have passed up. And perhaps I noticed on a lot of the replays when there were incompletions or Dalton was forced to run out of the pocket, that it looked like the Lions' defensive backfield had pretty good coverage on Bears wide receivers. It didn't look like in other games where I have seen wide open Bears receivers and said, wow, Trubisky or Fields or whoever was quarterback and should have hit that guy. I didn't see that. I didn't see this basically second string of wide receivers, second, third, fourth, fifth string of wide receivers creating a lot of separation. Not to say that there wasn't, but Fields managed the game well. That's for sure.
I wish that they would have activated our favorite guy from training camp, Rodney Adams, if they were going to put somebody up from the practice squad.
Right. Isaiah Coulter he's not Rodney Adams. I looked up their stats before the game. Rodney Adams runs a 4.4 40 and Isaiah Coulter a 4.55. So Adams is faster. I know this fascination that Nagy and Pace now have with speedy wide receivers. So has Isaiah Coulter been outplaying Adams so much in practice that they gave Coulter the call up? That was bizarre. I would have loved to have seen Adams in there.
Or Perriman.
Well, Perriman is gone now. He was.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, the Dolphins, I believe, picked him up. So he's back over there. They were in desperately to receive it. Yeah. So,
that's an embarrassing gaffe on my part, but I didn't see that transaction.
No, well, a lot of those transactions now are falling under the radar because there's the big drama around Matt Nagy and his future, and the speculation that he would have been fired today, win or lose. He would have been fired in about 5-10 minutes. And so, what did you think about this whole thing this week? Was this just another example of Bears management ineptitude?
My gut instinct is to tell me there was some validity to the reporting. I don't think anyone just made this shit up, and they realized how bad a press that they were getting. And I think McCaskey had the meeting and said, hey, we're not going to fire him, rally around him. But I think they were doing basically a contingency plan, PR, to cover their asses on this. Hey, real quick, if you don't mind me saying, Detroit at the end of the game had Josh Woods in there. So that's another former Bear who Carmen DeFalco still doesn't know. But, but yeah, that's another one of those transactions. It's like, oh, I knew he was gone, but I'd forgotten about it until I saw him on the field.
Well, and I agree with Chris here, our good buddy from Yorkshire, right, Chris? Correct me if I'm wrong. This was an embarrassing week for the Chicago Bears fans. I mean, on our show Tuesday night, I played that Dave McGinnis news report of how the Bears, McCaskey, the older brother who has now left us, how he botched that whole signing of McInnes. And we're probably better off with Dick Duran than we were McGinnis. But still, it was just embarrassing actions by the Chicago Bears management, and this week really mirrored that with this report. And McCaskey's got to go talk to the team and say that we support Matt Nagy, but he's probably going to be fired anyway. But he's got to go up there. So effing embarrassing. And there are some people who are saying, and Greg Gabriel is not a fan of this, but some people have been saying management needs to go out there and save Matt Nagy from this embarrassment that he's going through, having to answer these questions. They should have gone out there. And Greg said that's bullshit, because why give credence to a report that has no validity? And so, but I feel like that's what they should have said. They should have just
there must have been something to it, because he had to meet the team.
Right. Well, I think it was simply because this guy was a recognized reporter, former Pulitzer Prize winner and so forth. So it wasn't out of somebody's ass. It wasn't a tweet from a guy like me,
Right.
So there was some oomph behind it. I mean, this guy was on all the radio shows. If he was a buffoon, he would not have been a guest on these radio shows. So, Robert saying that Conkle is garbage. He has a bad rep. Well, that's probably then why he's not at the Sun-Times anymore, or writing anywhere other than the patch.com. But Robert, he does have that Pulitzer Prize, and the fact that he worked at the Sun-Times for about 10 years, that's not, he must have something going on.
What do you think Greg's impression of the 99 situation was? Because in my opinion, completely uninformed. I touched on this Tuesday. I still think more than Michael McCaskey was incompetent, I think that Dave McGinnis was an asshole in the situation. Like, who are you to say, oh, I'm done, I don't want to be the Bears coach now? You should be running to the job, Dave McGinnis.
Yeah.
I mean, again, he was a failure in Arizona, and we never heard from him again.
Yeah. You're right. I'll ask Greg that question. He and I are doing a show tomorrow afternoon. We haven't picked a time yet, so just the best way to stay in touch with what we're doing here at the Barroom Network is to subscribe to our YouTube channel or subscribe to our audio podcast if you just want to listen to it in the comfort of your car or any device where you're on the move. But subscribe to YouTube and subscribe to our audio podcast, and you will stay on top of everything that we're churning out here. Like over 20 different shows throughout the year. So, all right, getting back to Matt Nagy, would you be surprised if he's fired tomorrow?
He's not going anywhere.
You don't think so?
He's surviving the rest of the regular season, in my opinion. And maybe if there's some reason that they could put together a run, which again, I'm just me being the fan, who knows, man, if they would keep him because what are we now, 4-7?
Yep.
What is to say if they would beat Green Bay, for example, and then beat Minnesota? I mean, of course, they've got Arizona in there, but let's just say Arizona wins and you're 4-8. But let's say they put together a couple more wins there and end up finishing, 8-9 or something like that. Would that save his job, especially if he's in contention for the playoffs? I don't know if it's inevitable.
That is kind of like the $64,000 question. I've used that cliche a number of times recently. Are you at this point? A lot of people are saying the Bears have already made up their mind that Nagy is not coming back this next season. So, would better performance over the last several games change their minds?
I would hope not.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think we've seen enough, not only of Nagy, but of Pace to just start over, blow this whole thing up. You've got a young quarterback now that you're going to build your franchise around. If you believe in Roquan Smith, to sign him to a multi-year, almost $100 million contract, then you've got your defensive star, you've got your offensive star for the next 5 to 10 years, and start building with those guys. Go. And I think that's what they should do, to give Ryan Pace, who has never had a playoff win in his 7 seasons with the Chicago Bears, has had now, people say that he's brought in 2 quarterbacks, Trubisky and Fields, but I say, well, he held on to Jay Cutler. I mean, you could have got rid of Jay Cutler. It would have been a nasty, nasty salary cap hit, but you could have just said, hey, we're starting new, brand new, but he chose not to do that. And he allowed himself to have John Fox foisted upon him. So to me, that's not the signs of a strong general manager. You want somebody to walk into Hallis Hall and say, God damn it, I'm in charge. You're not going to tell me what coach to bring in. You're not going to tell me this or that or whatever. No, I'm in charge. Go away. I'll see you at the Super Bowl parade. And the Bears haven't done that. They haven't brought in somebody like that because they are an image of management, that meek, beautiful old lady Virginia McCaskey and George McCaskey. What is he in his 70s? They're meek, and that seems to run through the entire administration.
I will still argue that Cutler was the best decision for 16. I know that the salary cap number was high, but he had a very good 2015. And furthermore, that was his year with Adam Gase. Mm-hmm. And furthermore, who are you're gonna give it to Brian Hoyer that year, or Mike Glennon? Like Jay was the best option out there at the time. So I don't blame Ryan Pace, and that's not just because I'm a fanboy. I honestly think that's the best he was going to do that given that season.
Right.
But coming back to this year, you mentioned John Fox. Did you hear the little dig that they took on Pace on the broadcast?
No, I missed it.
Yeah, he was talking about the different quarterbacks the Bears have had recently. And he's like, that they drafted Mitchell Trubisky and didn't even tell their coach, John Fox.
Oh,
yeah, and it made it sound like it was like duplicitous and deceitful. The way it was a little dig, and Aikman kept taking little jabs throughout the broadcast about how bored he was. I don't know if you heard that, or because you're busy during the game.
Yeah,
but he just kept saying things to Buck like, if we're ever thinking about this game again in the future, where the fuck have our lives gone?
I heard that. I heard that.
God, like if you hate your job, why are you there?
Well, I think what it is that everyone is just making fun of the Chicago Bears. Like when I was a kid, I'd watch the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and he'd make fun of the winless Detroit Lions and the Tampa Bay Bucks and so forth over the course of years. Well, now Chicago has become the butt of so many jokes on national TV from the announcers, on talk shows and so forth. It's unfortunate, which is another reason number 347 why you need to blow this up and start bringing a visionary leader. Find out what that vision is, and then ask him, how are you going to execute and bring that plan to fruition? And if he or she, if they have a great convincing argument, and then Greg Gabriel tutored me and said, the key question also is, who are you going to bring in? So, Mr. General Manager, when you talk about executing that plan, who's going to be your head coach? Who are going to be your assistant coaches and so forth? And they better have some really good replies to that. If not, bring in the next candidate. And that's what the Bears have to do right from the ground start, man. Blow up Hallis Hall because they're not going to sell the team. They're not.
And to use an analogy with the stock market, if the Bears were, I don't know, what, like Yahoo in 1998, they're one of these 2000 companies that when the bubble burst for online, .coms and the value plummeted, it feels like our brand has really, really gone in the dirt. Like you're talking about all these other networks and broadcasters that are mocking the Bears. It feels like the brand recognition, not from the fans, but from the outside, has really taken a hit.
Yep.
So maybe they're the charter franchise, but like you said, they're almost the laughing stock now, and that's got to resonate unfavorably with the McCaskies. That's part of the reason I think Nagy's going to go.
Well, yeah, I mean, I imagine if you're George McCaskey, right? And the number one reason you have your job is because of your mother. And the number two reason you still have your job is because of your mother. Because under most other circumstances, that person would have been fired. Hey, you got to pick all these people that run the team. They're all terrible. Let's give your younger brother a shot at it.
Yeah.
So my point here is you got to believe that he is thinking, I'm letting down my mom. I know how much this team means to my mom. I got to do something. I got to, while I still have her on this planet, I want her happy like she was at the end of that game and she's applauding the effort from the teams. I want to see that every week. So
did you see her Sunday when Goodwin caught the touchdown?
Yeah, that was an outstanding image, man. I was taken by that. And so I hope, as any good son, you would want to make your mom proud. So hopefully he tells her, the way I can make you proud is by being ruthless. You're going to see a ruthless George now, Mom, and go in there and Pace, get your shit and get out of here. You, I don't know who you are. Get out of here too. Just clean house, everybody.
I still think Pace, the reports about him being moved up, the way he revamped Hallis Hall, I think they're going to put him on the new stadium. I really do. I don't think he leaves.
It is pointing to that. I mean, they sort of groomed him for that job, so. And I guess I wouldn't mind that so much as long as he stayed out of the football operation. So let's say he moves into Ted Phillips' role. He's got contacts. He should know who all the hot GM prospects are. I would rather have Pace interview his successor than to have Ted Phillips and George McCaskey. That's an interesting question. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you, but if I'm just playing devil's advocate, you're going to have a guy who's failed at one position and then hire his successor at the same position. It'd be like, if Jay was 51-51 at quarterback and he's handpicking the next quarterback, you'd be like, oh, you didn't succeed enough. Did you really earn that task? But I agree with you. I would like to see him go, as he's done good work in that aspect for the Bears, for the Hallis Hall rebuild. So go ahead and let him work on the stadium thing. And like you said, bring somebody else in, whether he hires him or George hires him or whoever the fuck. What difference does it make? And let me say, too, I apologize.
Hold on a second. Now let's see if we can hear what Coach Nagy.
Sure.
You work through these times. And that's why they're allowed to celebrate in our locker room right now. It feels pretty good.
It looks like they're doing Club Dub.
Yeah, I saw a tweet about it.
Well, they always say they're going to win. You know what I mean? They always say they're going to win, and that's what we always want to believe. But I think more than anything, without getting into major detail, there was a lot of love and support, which again I appreciate.
Last one. Oh, last one.
Again, for me, there's only my understanding, which is what it's been since the day I signed up to be this coach, is to win as many games as I can possibly win and do it the right way. And
failed.
When you lose 5 games in a row, you understand, and when you're 3-7, you know what territory you can get to. You know what I mean?
Well said.
That comes with the job, and so I knew that 4 years ago when I took this. And so here we are. Every week is a little bit different. This one was definitely different. But this is one of those weeks where you use it moving forward, and you don't make any predictions. But what you do is you use it when you go home on that plane tonight. Everyone's having a good time because they're able to celebrate and have fun watching the tape and enjoy their Thanksgiving and get back to being healthy and understand what games are next. But the only game that matters is Arizona coming up. That's it. So again, for me, the only thing I can say to those players is that I appreciate them, and we got a hell of a group of guys, players and coaches, and they showed it today by getting the win.
Thank you.
Wow, that sounded like a resignation to me, man. Or not a resignation, but it resigned that your fate is you're gone. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I can see that. Real quick, if I could say what I was going to say, please. I apologize to anyone watching. I keep trying to hide yawning. I love the Bears. I love being here. Please don't think I'm bored or I'm just tired, man. So please ignore me if I yawn. I apologize.
It's the tryptophan from watching the Chicago Bears play. It does it all the time.
No, it's the 3 hours of sleep, man. Like I said, I'm so happy for the win. I hope my energy doesn't sound too low.
No.
I'm just tired, man.
All right, this is the Dan and Aldo show. So hold on a second here. Hold on. Let me just put this up because it is Thanksgiving. I want to make sure people know. Oh, you only got 3 hours of sleep because you were fucking all night long?
No, I worked.
Oh, shit.
I was at work. So, yeah, I mean, again, everyone's tired. But I'm sorry for yawning where I'm on camera.
You want to hear Cole Kmet?
Sure.
Okay, let's give him a shot.
Executing like we wanted to the whole game, but at the end of the day, we actually went at it and ended up getting that win. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was tough for me. A lot in your head after going right from Sunday into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then playing Thursday, and there's a lot in your head. You don't know what's true, what's not, and that was difficult for me. And you don't know what's going on, and at the end of the day, as players, we kind of just hunkered down on just this Wednesday night, and just put ourselves in a good mindset, and we were able to do a job today and get a win.
Cool. Matt told us that he talked to you guys on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did he say to you guys that helped you get back to the
Yeah, I think he put the focus on us, which is I thought was a good thing, and he made it about us, and this is our game, and the opportunity to play on a Thanksgiving Day and against the Lions in a game like this. This is a game me personally I watched all the time, and so I think he just put us in a good mindset, and that I thought that was good of him to do that, and I think going from there and leading into Wednesday and Wednesday night, we were just able to get in a better mindset going into this game. I mean, I'm not going to get into that. I think at the end of the day, those are conversations that are held between us, between him and the team. And, it's unfortunate that stuff like that gets leaked out. And it's disappointing that, things like that happen in our building. But, I'm going to keep that between us and coach. Yeah, I'm obviously, like I said, not going to get into what he said. I think that's between us and him, and just the organization in general. But I think it put the players in a good mindset. I felt better afterwards, and I felt more clear-minded going into this game, which is a obviously a spot you need to be in before playing a football game, because things get dangerous out there if guys aren't clear-minded, knowing what they're doing out there. So I felt much better after that, and we'll just kind of take it from there. Yeah.
This will be the last one. See what he's got to say here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just our attitude towards it. I thought Andy, he came up and said some stuff. Obviously, not going to get into it on Wednesday night, and I think just as we formed our mindset for this game and where we wanted to be at, kind of just blocking out distractions. That's just where it was. So, I think at the end of the day, we did this for ourselves as players, as a team with coaches involved and just the organization in general. So.
Well, I love the honesty there from Cole Kmet, the young tight end, who's been really picking up the caliber of his play over the last several games. He's really starting to get into a groove, and this guy could be a really top tier tight end, maybe top of tier 2, maybe into that star status tier 1. Dan's having some problems with his connection here. We'll get him back shortly, but Cole Kmet said in that press conference, it was addressed, all the rumors, all the bullshit. And Kmet said that he appreciated the fact that they were talked to by management to alleviate people that, this in-season turmoil wasn't going to happen. Now, hopefully they didn't say, well, he's going to coach the rest of the season. I'd love to see the Bears get their head start and at least talking to some candidates. But the trick is that means then Ryan Pace would be talking to head coach candidates these last 2 weeks of the season. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the NFL has changed this rule that you can interview potential coaching candidates for your team the last 2 weeks of the season. So in the past, it wasn't until after the Super Bowl that you could start talking to coaching candidates. Well, that's now changed. So hopefully the Chicago Bears will make that move and start interviewing people as quickly as possible. But the tricky thing is what happens if it's Ryan Pace is going to stay as general manager. I think that would be a huge, huge mistake for this organization. Dan, I know that your phone gave out on you or whatever happened there. I was just talking about Cole Kmet and how happy I was to see him candidly address the issues with the team. And he said he appreciated McCaskey addressing the team to alleviate player concerns.
That's good. Yeah, for whatever reason, when Cole started talking, my phone just went to shit. So everything started pixelating on my end, and then it dropped me. So I'm sorry about that.
By the way, people in the chat room are saying you sound fine. Don't worry about yawning. You're doing great. People think that you're nervous because this is your first official on-camera experience on an after game show. Usually you do audio only.
No. I'm not nervous at all. I've been on video with you down there in the Aldo's bear cave, but no, I don't have headphones on. That's why I feel like I can't hear properly. Where I'm in radio, I always have cans on, and even with you, I had headphones on, so I feel kind of naked, I guess.
Wow,
but I'm not nervous at all.
Don't tilt down with your camera. We don't want to see you naked.
No, I believe you on that. I understand.
Okay, so I said earlier in the show that I had a little bone to pick with you.
Sure.
Rightly so. You complain about the defense usually, throughout the game, and there's reason for you to believe that they go into a siesta. But would you not agree with me that typically at the end of the games, the Bears defense, while not living up to any of the hype, particularly the hype from the 2018 team and so forth, because they're not that defense now. They don't have the star players like Khalil Mack or what have you. But would you not agree with me that overall the effort on the part of the defense today needs applause, and that giving up the amount of points they gave up to the Lions, only 14, is something good?
Yeah, but I feel like in a lot of ways we're kind of doing what Wani used to do. Like, well, if we hadn't given up that 75-yard run, we held them to 90 yards rushing. But you gave up the 75-yard run. So it's just like early in the game, like they give up the big passes on the first drive. Were they tired already? Because that's the excuse we get. Oh, the offense, they went 3 and out, so the defense is tired. But, to start the game, they let Jared Goff go straight down the field and throw a touchdown. I feel like in those situations, they're better than what they perform. That's why I'm on them, because I feel like they underperform.
Mm-hmm. Well, and 4,000 Clovers, yeah, that's exactly what I said at the beginning of the game. I'm not, cheering we're going to the Super Bowl or anything. It's Detroit. Yeah, I get it. The opponent was not good, but you got to still analyze whoever it is you're playing to. If you're playing to against an inferior team, you still got to give them credit that they held them to 14 points. I think the look at these stats here that I pulled up from ESPN.com. The Bears had 21 first downs. Detroit had 14. Now, Detroit had a lot more. A lot more in the first half than the second half. And time of possession was the Bears over Detroit. So despite the fact that it is a mediocre or less than mediocre team, I thought that the Bears defense should be applauded. And they played without Roquan Smith for the second half. You alertly texted me and say, yeah, this Roquan's got an injury. So they played without him, and they played without Duke Shelley, who for the last 4 or 5 games has looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, your point's well taken. That the defense held them to points, but like you keep saying, and the chat room keeps saying, it's only Detroit.
Yeah,
if that's Green Bay, they're getting lit up, man. And Dalton's the reason they won today. That last drive, is the offense deserves some credit today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That final possession is the reason we won.
Yeah. Dalton, if you look at Dalton's game, you will see that was the play of a smart veteran quarterback. Doesn't have the skills of a Justin Fields, can't run like Justin, doesn't have the arm strength of a Justin Fields, can't give you that multi-versatility that Justin Fields can. But what he can give you is really good vision, find that first, second, third receivers, and knows the offense well, seeing everything that a defense can throw. And so for that, you got to give the guy credit. So he could start in this league with a team that has a championship style defense and a good running game. He could start and he could go far. But I think at this point, and I know that this gentleman agrees with me, his name is Aaron Current. At this point, Fields is the guy. You got to invest in him and throw him out there. Right, AC?
Oh, definitely. What's going on, Dan? It's good to see you, man, on video on here. I listened to your guys' show the other day.
Yes,
and it was
sir.
great. Texted Aldo, told him I love the media mashup, man. I love the production you guys put into that. But yeah, to me, you Dalton did well enough, and I even texted the guys at the Barfly Tailgate show. Dalton actually looked pretty good while he was playing today. The interception in the end zone can't happen, but as far as the future, it's right there in it's in Justin Fields' hands. So the more time he gets on the field, like Dan said earlier, I can't cook for shit, but just standing in the kitchen while my wife's cooking don't mean I can whip up a Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow or this weekend.
That's for sure. So what have you been having for Thanksgiving dinner, AC? What's been going on over at the current household?
Well, my wife is working today and tomorrow, so we're doing Thanksgiving dinner here on Sunday, but we did go to my father-in-law's house. Me and Scotty went up there and watched the first half of the Bears game over there, ate a little bit, your typical Thanksgiving meal, turkey, stuffing. I don't know if you guys call it stuffing or dressing.
Stuffing,
sweet potatoes.
Yeah. Nice.
The typical Thanksgiving dinner. And then my wife's going to cook it up on Sunday, and they're going to come over here. So with the wife working, do you walk around in your underwear during the day, or this is something Dan wants to know, not me? I don't know if Scotty would like that, but it is gray sweatpants season. The ladies seem to enjoy it, and my wife definitely does. She says I can't go out in them, so that's why I left at halftime. I was like, man, I gotta go put some sweatpants on and chill,
Dan, what are you wearing now? I sound like a pervert. Dan, what are you wearing now?
A Chicago sweatshirt with Adidas pants.
Okay, so you are wearing pants. Why am I the only one in here not wearing pants?
You got a lot going on over there, Aldo.
So, AC, share with Dan your impressions of the game, and I'm going to run and take a whiz because this is my second beer. So my bladder says, gotta go.
Well, man, it was such a roller coaster of a game. Offense, like I said, they look better than I thought they would have, other than the running game. I know you said you wanted to see Montgomery running more, but it seemed like the Detroit defense just really had the run game stuffed. We couldn't do much on the ground. Now, I think they could have used that in their offensive game plan to play action a little bit more, maybe open it up, but they didn't seem to do that. But a win is nice, and I really thought the defense was going to give up there. There was a drive where one of their guys busted off a pretty big run, and I think they hit Hawkinson on a little out route that he took for a first down, and I was like, man, here comes the defense with this, giving it up. But the refs helped us out, honestly. I mean, they started getting holding calls and false starts. I thought we were bad, but there were several plays where I saw, Lions players trying to run off the field, and I was like, hike it. Come on, catch them with too many players on the field. And it just seemed like I don't know. A win's nice, though.
I definitely concur. A win is so much better. I mean, it makes my whole day better. It makes my whole week better.
Yeah.
The one thing I will complain about, like the play where Christian Jones got the penalty for slamming the receiver, you just knew the Bears were going to give up a touchdown when that happened. Why does that always fucking happen?
Yeah, it does. It seems like there's always at least one or two of those a game, and typically it seems to be Mario Edwards. But, yeah, when Christian Jones kind of slung him down, like, I don't know. I played defense in high school, and sometimes I got a soft spot for those guys because I'm like, man, you want them to play to the whistle. You want them to play hard and continue to try. You don't want to see them giving up. But, the way the NFL is going, though, throwing players down or hitting them out of bounds. Hell, with quarterbacks now, you just graze their helmet, and it's a 15-yard penalty. But, yeah, we always seem to get hit with at least one of those a game.
And when it happened, I was like, man, the Bears are going to give up a touchdown now because of Cheese with the stupid penalty.
Yeah.
Just more undisciplined football,
Yeah, but shout out to Cheese and Ogletree stepping in with Roquan down. That was a big loss. When they said Roquan wasn't coming back, I was like, fuck, here we go. But they held their own, and we kicked that last-second field goal, which I thought we should have went for the touchdown, but it worked out for us. But I hated seeing us take two knees in a row and at like the 5-yard line, even leaving time on the clock, man. I feel like you got to go for the score, for the touchdown. I don't know.
No, I disagree. Given they scored and gave Baltimore a scrub quarterback no one's ever heard of, a minute 30 or whatever it was, and he still scored. Yeah, Pittsburgh came back on you, so run that fucking clock, baby.
Well, we had timeouts and they didn't. I felt like we could have ran the ball a time or two and kept the clock moving and got the time. I mean, like I said, I feel bad complaining about a victory, especially this season when there's so few of them. But I mean, I don't know. I felt like we could have at least tried.
No, I'm with you though, Aaron. I mean, I don't think it's bad to criticize what went wrong in a victory. That's how you get better, right? So, it is what it is. It's like everybody's been saying in the chat, you beat the worst team in the league. We shouldn't be that happy. I'm not fooling myself into believing that we're going to the Super Bowl. What I want is for these young players to win and get in the habit of winning. Yeah, and I'm not afraid that it might save Matt Nagy's job. I'm going to trust that they've seen enough evidence to know that all the rest of his chances are done. And if you listen to the last half of that press conference, like we had here on the show, it sounded like he was resigned to the fact that this is over.
Yeah, I think he knows that regardless of, unless he wins out, I think he knows and everybody else knows he's not going to be back. It's just it's a matter of when, not if, he gets fired from his position as head coach.
Yep. I'm putting together a graphic here to show the stats of Justin Fields when he played Detroit and Andy Dalton when he played today. So let me put it together here, and then we'll talk about it. But overall, AC, did you talk about what your impressions on Dalton's play today?
I touched on it some. The biggest thing to me was the interception in the end zone. That's something that can't happen, especially he's an experienced quarterback. You're supposed to know better than to do that, you know. But he was, and I was, like I said earlier, I was texting the guys. We got a group text with the Barfly Tailgate Show, and I was like, man, Andy Dalton, he's looking pretty good today. You know, he was hitting open receivers. We saw everyone getting involved. Amir Byrd had a few catches. Like, where the hell that guy come from, you know?
I think that was one of the more impressive things about Dalton is he really sprayed the ball around to all receivers. And with Allen Robinson being out, you know, he didn't have a number one target that he was going to look at over and over. Sort of Jimmy Graham. I don't have how many targets they have in front of me. I'll look at it. But I almost bet that Jimmy Graham might have had more targets than anybody else. But he did get almost more than double the completions that Justin Fields got in that victory that the Bears had over the Lions at Soldier Field. He had over 110 more yards, about 110 more yards. He had a touchdown pass. Justin didn't have any. Both of them had sacks and interceptions. So overall, I think what these stats say is that these are a veteran versus a rookie kind of stats.
Yeah. I didn't want to come on here and take over Dan's show if he wants to go first, and then I'll give my input on that a little bit.
Dan's ready to cede to you.
Well, I'd kind of like to see the rushing numbers because, like I was telling Dan, I just felt like the Lions really stuffed us in the running game today. Like both of our guys, Herbert and Monty, just seemed like there was no separation there. They were getting hit like at the line of scrimmage, and a lot of times you'll see Montgomery break that tackle and fall forward for 5-6 yards. But it seemed like today they really just had us stuffed, and that may have impacted Dalton's numbers today as opposed to Fields' if we were able to run the ball better when we played Detroit last time.
Oh my goodness, we had an excellent rushing. What was the thing that stood out to you most about that Lions-Bears game that we went to in terms of the offense, Dan?
Well, first off, the statistical analysis there isn't it really fair because that was Fields' second start ever, his first win ever. This is Dalton's 300th start or whatever. I don't know.
It makes sense. Sure.
So Fields got a long ways to go, but considering that was his second start ever, I think he did well that day. Montgomery ran the ball so well that day, but got hurt. So that's my strong recollection of that of week 4 was that he got hurt and we were like, oh fuck, not now, no.
Yep. Oh my goodness.
Because Mack had just gotten hurt the week before, but was still trying to tough it out.
Right.
And so now all these weeks later, it is kind of disappointing to see 17 carries for 46 yards.
Yeah, gave up on the run maybe a little too early. You want to see him get 20 touches in that run game, but it's not terrible. It's not Matt Nagy calling the plays. He would have had 6 carries. So, but I think the biggest disappointment here is that Herbert only got 4 carries. And like Danny Shimon has been saying the last couple of weeks is, where are the formations with both of those prime running backs, Montgomery and Herbert, on the field at the same time? One of those guys can be a cheap man's Tariq Cohen, where they can line up at the slot, motion them into the backfield, do all sorts of creative things with these 2 guys who have been running the shit out of the ball, but you're using them, you're not using that offensive firepower, right, Dan?
Yeah, and Herbert really hasn't done anything since Montgomery come back. It's like Nagy just doesn't know how to have multiple toys. Like Damian Williams only did really well in the one game against the Raiders, and that's because Montgomery was out. It's just like it seems like we never have 2 backs under this guy that are both playing well at the same time.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why.
We talked about that for years, going back to I believe we had Jordan Howard and Cohen at the same time, and they were like, let's get these guys on the field together and make defenses choose. Especially then we had Dontrell Inman as our number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, so those were our biggest weapons on offense, and even then we just couldn't get it together. I don't know what to do.
You put both of those guys in, and you throw, you motion one guy out into that wide receiver area, and you throw that wide receiver screen to that running back who's out there. Oh my gosh! Can you imagine if it's David Montgomery out there? He would just bowl over a defensive back coming out, had him in open field. If it's Khalil Herbert, he's got that little move. So I'm surprised they haven't dipped into that well. But as Matt Nagy always says in press conferences, yeah, we got that in the playbook. You just didn't get to that page, or you didn't get to that situation in the game where we could use that. Bullshit. Go out there and put it in your scripts of the first 15 plays you're going to run as an offense. By the way, didn't the beginning of the game start weird when who was it? The special teams captain, Christian Jones, said, the Lions won the toss. He goes, we defer. And then they asked the Bears, Christian Jones, what are you going to do? He goes, we defer. The referee's like, no, you can't both defer. One of you has to. Who the fuck is going to get the ball here? Christian Jones, he didn't know what he was doing.
I must have missed that. I think we were eating at that time because we ate kind of a Thanksgiving lunch. I missed some of the first quarter.
Dan, are you hungry right now? I got munchies. That's what I got. Did Dan freeze on us?
I can't tell. Either that or he can't hear us.
I couldn't hear you well.
Are you hungry?
No, I ate some Raisin Bran at halftime. I'm fine.
Raisin Bran on Thanksgiving.
That's going to be me.
I'm a little bit weirded out by my video. I kind of look like I'm on the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, you do. You do. I don't know if you're the devil and we should be afraid, or you're afraid of Aaron's beard or something like that.
I'm like that bitch out in the woods that was crying and the snot was coming out of her nose and stuff. Remember that?
Dan would be the one.
Was that her name? Was that her name in the credits? That bitch.
Dan would be the one like, where's that Blair Witch? I'm trying to throw this dick. Where's she
at? So everybody in the chat now wants to know, would you fuck that bitch?
I would have let her rub that snot all over me while she's
Hey, you said you had 3 hours of sleep, Dan?
Yes, sir.
You get the lubricant wherever you can, right?
I don't like lube, man. I'm so lucky that I'm not into guys because I don't like shit like that.
I tell my wife that every morning when I brush my teeth. I'd be terrible at this.
Hey, Dan, I know you didn't get a chance to listen to Aaron and me do the Barflight Tailgate show like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it was just the two of us, and it ended up being kind of it felt like the Dan and Aldo show where AC and I were having personal conversations and stuff. So maybe the three of us should consider forwarding that right now. Aaron, you want to tell us anything about your sex life?
No, like I said, I'm not on Dan's level, man. He's kind of a player. He gets all kind of. It seemed like, and I've got. There's been I can count on both hands the amount of lucky ladies that have made it all the way to home base with AC here. So,
well, and that's a number Dan has had just in the month of November.
I found the one that would let me do it more than a few times, and I locked her up. I got my wife.
Wise decision there, lovely lady. Go ahead, Dan. Tell us a story about some sex life. How many girls have you had since your divorce? How many girls have you?
You really want to know the number?
Yeah,
Rolodex.
Since I got divorced, I've fucked. Now I'm talking about since she left. Now in December of 17.
December 2000.
In the last 4 years, I've done 21.
21
since she left. Yeah.
Shit.
I told you on Tuesday I'm guilty of drowning my sorrow in pussy, I guess.
Yeah, that's better than being alcoholic or a drug addict. So
Yeah.
That's
I'm
good.
no Mac though. I mean, like I said, I look more like Tony Saragusa than I do Zac Efron, but sometimes they like me. So
you use those big words, and those West Virginia girls go, "He's bona fide."
Did you see that this morning? Was that why you say that? What's the movie? The Coen Brothers movie. Oh brother, where art thou?
I didn't know it was on this morning, but that's one of
Yeah.
my favorite movies.
Oh,
George Clooney's
great.
from here in Kentucky, so
Right. And Holly Hunter says to her kids, I don't want to be with your daddy anymore because he's not bona fide.
yeah.
And I heard that this morning. So when you said it, I was like, holy shit. Yeah, Dan is definitely boner fide.
I take a whole sleuth of vitamins to try to keep my stuff working, man.
Yeah.
That a guy.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
the other
at
side-
some point it's gonna hit, right?
Right.
That's what they say. I mean, I tell my wife I got the opposite problem.
Chris says that Dan is a sex addict. Is that true, Dan?
Well,
I'd say we all are. Who doesn't like sex? Who's like, yeah, sex, I could go or stay, either way.
I guess I don't know if I'm an addict because I've only had sex like 5 times in the last few months or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you could say I'm promiscuous, which I'm not proud of. But
Is that big word, AC? Promiscuous.
Yeah.
You couldn't just say horny.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds sexy.
Nelly Furtado had a song called Promiscuous, and she looked fucking hot in it.
Right.
Yeah. And Timberland made that beat, didn't he? Or he was
I don't recall that, but yeah.
So. But I gotta tell you, I'm like you guys, sex, pussy is always on my mind. The only problem is it's never in my dick. I was warming that joke up in my mind for the last 30 seconds. This is Thanksgiving, fellas. This is Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Talking about sex after the Bears win.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So,
we've won 3 in a row on Thanksgiving now.
Well, and Nagy is like what 5-1 now against the Lions? No, 7-1, isn't he?
Man, the loss was terrible from last December.
Yeah, that was one of the more painful ones. But yeah, I would say the Detroit Lions should be calling the Chicago Bears right now and asking if they can have permission to talk to Matt Nagy being their next head coach. Wouldn't that be wild?
I wouldn't wish that on the Lions fans. They've been through enough, man.
No, guys, if Nagy went to Detroit, they would sweep us. He'd go 2-14, but beat the Bears 2 times.
I mean, we talk about, the Bears firing Lovey on a 10-win season. The last time the Lions had a good coach, they just let him walk out the door too. It was Caldwell. He was a hell of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed to be having them going in the right direction, and then they were just like, nah, I don't think so. But I'm sure Don Burr's in the chat. He's probably fired up.
Don Burr stopped in earlier, and he said, Lions versus everybody, including the refs.
Well, they most like when we had the refs screwing us in Pittsburgh, this was way different. Like when they would show the replays, I'd be like there was a couple of those holds where I saw it before they even threw the flag. I was like, that's a hold. And then every time they showed the replay, I'm like, yep, that's a hold. It's not like they were like usually the commentators even will be like, I don't know, that's kind of a questionable call there. I don't know if that warranted a penalty flag, but it seemed like every single one of them, I agree. They were shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah,
Did I answer that question for 4,000 Clovers?
Yeah, I want everybody to answer it. So go ahead, start us off.
I think Nagy...
Well, hold on. For the audio podcast people, let's read the question. The question is, do you guys think Nagy will get an offensive coordinator job, let alone a head coaching one, after the Bears? That's from 4,000 Clovers.
My answer to that is yes, but the reason why is because he'll go back to Kansas City. it'll be Andy Reid giving basically a brother-in-lawing him and bringing him back. The way New England always kind of like Josh McDaniels ran back to New England when he was fired in Denver. If it's not with Andy Reid, no.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Aaron. What do you think?
I agree with what he just said, especially if you see Eric Bieniemy actually get a gig somewhere else, whether it be throughout the NFL or even the college ranks, where I've heard some people talk about him going to USC. I don't know if that's warranted or not, or if there's any validity to that rumor, but I definitely think if Matt Nagy gets another shot, it will be in Kansas City, and he'll kind of have to build himself back up. They may even stick him at quarterback coach. I've heard that Hogan Johns was talking about Kafka's contract coming up in Kansas City, who's their current quarterback's coach. So that could be a position they slide Nagy back into.
Yep, and Kafka has been talked about as an offense coordinator, head coach candidate, so he could definitely be moving on. Yeah, I'd be shocked if the Chiefs didn't find some place for him. Reid has talked about Nagy like he's his son, so he'll definitely find some kind of an assistant coach's job with the Chiefs. But he may not find one in the NFL. He could end up, maybe coaching Muscogee State or someplace like that.
Well, he goes back to Reid in Philly, doesn't he? He was all the way back on that coaching staff, I believe.
True, absolutely.
So
maybe
he's kind of like a son-in-law.
Yeah, exactly. In New Hampshire, I think is looking for a coach. The college football program there. All right, we got another.
Speaking of college football, before we get off the subject, LSU's coming for our head coach at Kentucky. Please, Mark Stoops, if you're watching this, do not leave. He's done things here at Kentucky that no head coach has ever done. I mean, his winning percentage is up there with a guy you guys might have heard of. His name was Bear Bryant. Yeah, he was pretty fucking good. So I'm hoping we don't lose that guy. I know Dan doesn't watch college ball, but I'm a
I don't. You know why they called Bear Bryant though?
No, why?
Because of his proclivities for gay sex. He's a big bear.
You're a fucking liar. You're so not back then. He would. They didn't do that stuff back then. He would have done that.
I'm just kidding.
That's hilarious. They didn't do that back then. All right. Let's see. I want to talk with you guys about this question. Isn't Pace a bigger problem than Nagy? Yeah, and I said that early in the show. He brought all these players here, or a majority of them. If you put an entire Chiefs coaching staff on the Bears, are we really playing better? That's the question I want to talk to you guys about. So let's say at the start of the season, it was Andy Reid and his coaching staff coaching that Bears roster at the beginning of the season. Would we have a winning record as opposed to the record we have now with Matt Nagy? And start us off.
Well, I mean, I spoke on this morning a little bit. He's the reason we don't have depth on our team is because he has not drafted all that well, and he's traded away draft picks that we could have used to build that depth. Now, I love having Khalil Mack. I think I think that trade was definitely worth it. But some of these other trades, he gives away draft picks like they're candy on Halloween, and so that hurts you with trying to build depth. And I just and the Chiefs, I mean, they kind of, I mean, they're building it back up now, but they had a rough start to the season too. So I don't think it would matter if they were here. What could we do? I think Jakeem Grant, who we saw kind of have a couple of plays today, I think they would use him a lot better than our current coaching staff has shown the ability to, but I just don't think the depth is there. The pieces aren't there right now.
Yep. It's interesting. It's a fascinating question. You could talk about that one for 2 hours. Dan, what are your thoughts?
I disagree.
Oh, I love disagreements.
Steve Spagnuolo has been a defensive coordinator in Super Bowls and beaten Tom Brady with his defensive scheme. I think he's a huge, massive upgrade, even though Kansas City's defense isn't great, but it's a massive upgrade over Desai, and so is Andy Reid over Matt Nagy. So, yeah, I think if the last 2 games alone, we definitely get wins with that coaching staff. I would say at the worst, if we had their coaching staff, we would have 6 or 7 wins now at worst.
And go ahead. AC.
I can see that. As far as the defensive guy, I mean, Desai getting his first shot, and on top of that, he's dealing with injuries. But how did all of us talked about it all off season? We need a corner. I know Badge,
except Zimmer. He said we didn't need corners.
Well, I don't see how you can look at our roster and not think that we need corners, and then trade away one of our better ones, which Kyle Fuller went to Denver and has been benched. So maybe we got away from him at the right time. But even once he left, they drafted Thomas Graham in like the 6th round. They didn't bring in free agents other than Trufant, who we knew had a history of injuries and issues with that. We didn't even try to make big moves. We didn't try to trade. There was some guys that what's his name from Jacksonville that got traded? Henderson,
Right.
CJ Henderson. He was a top 10 draft pick. He may not turn out to be anything, but we didn't even try to upgrade the position at all. They were just like, yeah, this is who we're going to go with. And Aldo, I think you've touched on it. The guys that we have 3rd and 4th are guys that we cut. They went through the entire waiver process, and we brought them back.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Artie Burns today got beat on a touchdown, but other than that, I don't know how much of a downgrade he was from Vildor. That might be
Vildor.
Right. That might be a spot that we can continue to build with Artie Burns for now, anyway. But that's definitely got to be a spot they draft at.
I got to say this about Kindle Vildor. I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Vildor. You know, the guy's still a young player. He's had some good games this season, and yet he's had some bad games as well. So I really do think he's playing out of position. He's much more, to me, suited for the slot cornerback position. And I think maybe he shouldn't be a starter, but he's a guy worthy of a roster spot, and a guy that given, he could be like, who was the slot cornerback? Bryce Callahan. Bryce Callahan didn't start guns a-blazing either.
Who's a free agent next year, by the way, Bryce Callahan.
but by the time he left the Bears, he was coveted by a lot of teams and ended up going to Fangio. So sometimes for some of these guys, especially undersized defensive backs, it takes them a little while to develop. I wouldn't give up on Kindle Vildor just yet.
Yeah, I agree. I like him in the slot better than I do on the outside. A lot of times we've seen teams that pick on him will just put their bigger receiver on him, like we saw Chase Claypool do in Pittsburgh. They just he's what, 6'4" or something, and Vildor's 5'10" maybe. So they just like put it up to him, or they did it with the tight end out there in Pittsburgh too. Freiermuth, I think is how his name's pronounced. They just put big dudes on him, and they're like, what is Kindle Vildor supposed to do? He's either going to get beat or he's going to get a flag on him. I don't know what else he can do.
I'm with you. Goodbye to Chris Watts. He is overseas, and so he's going to turn in for the night. Chris Watts. You know Chris Watts? He's
Chris is one of my biggest fans. He's on here every week, and he's like, fucking AC show, hell yeah. So, have a good one, Chris.
Dan, any other thoughts you want to share about today's game or the future of the immediate future of the Chicago Bears team?
I have a new guy that I hate. It's that blonde-haired guy with the Lions that looks like Clay Matthews. I don't know who that is, but I suddenly hate him forever.
Let me see if I can find his name. Yeah, he was Anzalone.
Number 34. Yeah.
I was thinking, God damn it, why do these long-haired, blonde-haired guys always fucking sack us?
I'm looking at the defensive stats here. Sack-wise, Robert Quinn got another one. I want to formally apologize to Robert Quinn because
Yeah.
last year I said some really nasty things about him. Not so much about him, about the signing. And the nasty things I said about him was that he was quoted as saying, "Yeah, I basically made this decision to come to the Bears really quickly. They offered me the most money." It didn't sound like he wanted to be a Chicago Bear. Well, we've learned this season that he probably didn't want to be around much. He was suffering from some kind of depression and so forth. He got the help that he needed, and that's really shown on the football field and hopefully in his personal life as well, because the guy is a stud, man. He is a stud. I'm so glad he's with the Bears. Danny, you all right there? Looks like your power gave out or something.
No, I was reading a tweet from Adam Hogue. He was talking about Nagy and McCaskey. I thought maybe something was breaking, but it's the same stuff.
Okay,
same shit, different day. And not only
it's just Robert a different tweet reworded. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert Quinn's kind of became a leader on this defense too. We spoke about earlier about the way his press conference was after last week's game. He was visibly pissed, and just he didn't call out by name, but he was calling players out about not being in position. And he's like, I think basically what he said was he had 1/11th of the defense, and he knew he was doing his 1/11th. He just needs everybody else to do, as long as you're doing your 1/11th of basically do your job.
Mm-hmm.
He went Bill Belichick on him, but I like Robert Quinn, and I love the signing when we signed him. He didn't look so great last year.
Mm-hmm.
And but this year he has came in, and even without Mac, he's going in there and doing his job. I mean, and Travis Gibson's looking. He had a peanut punch today. That was nice to see.
I think they're getting better at that. I know that, that's a big Sean Desai thing, that they talk about turnovers and go through turnover drills and so forth. It seems like they've been having some more success this season than they have the last two seasons. Hey, Lucas Serrano is in the chat, and that is my cousin. So I want to say to him, where's my money? No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for tuning in, Lucas.
Speaking of that, I was listening to Happy Thanksgiving to your family there, Aldo. But I listen to KSR every week, which is Kentucky Sports Radio, but they don't only cover sports. No, actually, a lot of the fan stuff that they get has nothing to do with sports. And one of them that they talked about, someone, I can't remember where they said it was. They were doing a Thanksgiving dinner, and they had everyone pay to come to their family pay to come to the Thanksgiving dinner, to pay them basically for the Thanksgiving dinner. And I was like, well, if that was my family, they'd be one less. I'll tell you that. I'm not paying to go see you.
You're kidding, man. There's no way. In fact, what's weird is that I just was thinking about this. I said to my wife, the last 2 or 3 years, well, the Bears have played on Thanksgiving now, what, 2 out of the last 3 years?
I know we played the Lions.
I think it was 18,
year.
19, and 21.
So they the pandemic last year. So I haven't celebrated Thanksgiving with the family for a few years because I've been doing the show and so focused on that and stuff. So I've avoided all the political arguments. I've avoided all of the gossip stuff. I've avoided. Love you all, but I got a job to do.
Yeah.
Aguirre, you look like you're ready to take your picture at the DMV. By the way, this is straight from Mexico. Heidi Zimmerman brought this from Mexico, from Acapulco.
Nice.
They let her bring that on the plane?
Yeah. Well, in her luggage, I guess.
Oh.
I'm going to taste it for the first time.
So how was it meeting Heidi? She's been a barroom fan for years, man. That's
it was
biggie.
It was like seeing an old friend that you hadn't seen in years. Heidi is the sweetest.
She is.
Oh my gosh, just a sweetheart. And so we got to catch up on personal news and find out about her kids and stuff. And she is probably landing right about now, or probably an hour or two. And so this is for Heidi. Let's take a test.
But here's the question, Aldo, before we even hear about what you think. If Heidi were a man, I would say she is a gentleman. So what's the best term to call her since she is female? What's equivalent for gentleman for a female?
Ladies. She's a lady. Ladies.
She's a fucking lady. Tom Jones would be proud. She's a fucking lady.
Hey, see, do you get the music reference there? She's a lady.
She's a lady.
Oh,
whoa,
man.
whoa. I'm
Oh,
an old soul, man.
we may have found a new parody singer here in Asia.
When I was a teenager, I thought I was a rapper, but I kind of gave that dream up. So
we need to find a new parody singer now that Draft Dr. Phil is gone. I took my crack at it the other day, and I wasn't.
No, it was okay.
It was pretty bad.
I wasn't a fan, but at least you tried, Aldo.
I like to write it. I would love to find somebody else to sing it. So if there are any singers out there, let me know. I like writing a parody song every once in a while. And so I try to talk Dan into it because with his voice, you would think that he's a good singer.
One of the few times that I gave it back to Phil when Phil would, quote, bust my balls, and I still believe this to be true, he denied it. I could see Phil, if we were talking to Phil and it were like 1990, he'd be talking about how much he likes Marky Mark and the Fun Bunch. I fucking believe it. He would be saying he liked Vanilla Ice. He denied this shit, but I believe it to be true.
Oh, I believe it too.
He was East Coaster, man. I think he's Biggie Smalls and Wu-Tang.
Not out yet by 90, though. You know
that is true.
I was 2, so
Biggie emerges in 93, right?
Yeah.
Look who says he's a singer.
KB.
All right, we'll be in touch, brother. I'm gonna send you some lyrics to. I would love to do a parody song to the old Motown song, "Ball of Confusion." You know, "Ball of Confusion." That's what the world is today. But it will be, "Dumb fucking bears." They're really fucked. Something like that. I'll work on it.
I think ESPN 1000 does like a Christmas parody song every year. So maybe you can send some of those songs you just made up there to them, Aldo.
I find that to be so boring. I know I'm the minority, but I hate those fucking fan songs on Waddle and Sylvie. I would always fast forward that as soon as they started the segment.
I don't mind it so much, but yeah, every once in a while there are some real big time duds there. Phil definitely rocked out on It's so true.
I didn't say that. I said Marky Mark.
I still hit at every wedding we go to. I got to hit that Running Man when they play some Vanilla Ice for me. I got pictures. My wife and I, we got married in 2009, and I'm, I've got the jacket off, but me and I'm hitting the Running Man, and we went to another wedding not too long ago. I got Scotty out there and tried to show him how to do the Running Man. So
I love it.
I don't hate Vanilla Ice.
Foster says the Bears are an illusion. They ain't no confusion. Hey, I like that, Foster. Reach out to me on Twitter. We'll co-write a song together and get RKB to track it for us. Yeah, I like.
You know what I'd like to have now, based upon saying his name? A goddamn Foster's beer, man.
Australian for beer.
That's some good shit.
Oh yeah, that is good. Comes in that big fucking can.
Like a can of oil or something.
Yeah.
I would sneak a couple of those into the movie to watch The Exorcist or some shit like that. So when the girl who's possessed vomited, I would be vomiting my Foster's ale all over the front.
Is that true?
No, it's
my father-in-law, he's from your area. Well, sort of. He's from Harvey, Illinois. I think we talked about this before, Aldo. And he used to tell me all the time they would sneak into the White Sox stadium. He was a Cubs fan, but he would go there because they were cheap tickets. You know, it was real cheap to get in. And he'd say it was the middle of the summer, and they'd be going in trench coats because they're sneaking in all this alcohol. And I was like, I've always wanted to tell you that story because I can see Aldo doing that too.
Oh yeah, many a times. It's not only beer, but it would be like a bottle of vodka or something like that. Yeah, we sit up at the balcony of the Chicago Theater in downtown Chicago and watch movies, scary movies, or blaxploitation movies, like with Pam Grier running around naked and stuff, and we'd be doing shots and sneaking in a little marijuana. Yeah, those are the days, man. Those are great days. Dan is looking at me like, I can't believe this guy's my friend.
No. I just disagree because if I go to a movie or to a game, I want to focus on why I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
So I never want to drink when I'm watching a movie or a game. And if I have people at the house or at their house, I end up talking too much too. So I typically like to watch the game alone so I can focus.
Same.
Yeah,
I like watching at home too.
I'm the same way, but once in a while, AC, you're going to find yourself like in a social setting, right?
Yeah,
and you're not going to say, "Hey, I'm leaving now. I want to go watch the game or the movie all by myself at home."
Actually, the night we had a Halloween party here, Kentucky was playing Mississippi State that night, and I didn't expect the party to go as long. Kickoff was at like 7:30 that night or something, so I was like, we could start early and I can have everybody out of here by kickoff. So I turned the game on and I'm sitting there watching it, and then I felt like an asshole as I'm the host, so I ended up just turning it off, which Kentucky lost anyway. But I get what you're saying. Like in those social situations, you have to be especially if you're the host, you have to be a host, and it's difficult. We decided to do the Thanksgiving dinner Sunday instead of Saturday because Kentucky plays Louisville, and I just told Mallory, via text, I was like, look, I'm either going to be kicking everybody out at 7:30 to watch this UK game, or they're going to be madder than hell that I'm sitting here watching UK Louisville, but I am not missing this game because it is L's down all week. It is rivalry week, and I've taught my son since he was about 4, we don't like those dirty birds, and it ain't going to change.
I love it.
What about Otis Wilson?
What about him, man?
He's a Louisville Cardinal.
Buffon's uncle come from there too, but we don't like those dirty birds, man.
How about this for a Thanksgiving Day thought? Pam Grier makes me drool on myself during masturbation. I love it. Yeah, that's
I think speaking of drinking, I think Foster's had a couple.
I thought Tarantino should have had a love scene with her and Robert. What's his name that passed away? Robert Forster.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah, on Jackie Brown.
Yeah, she probably didn't want to do nudity, which is total, but she could have done something sexy. I mean, she's sexy just looking at the camera. On me. See me now?
I saw you the whole time.
Oh, okay. Dan says I froze on him, but yeah, Pam Grier is such a even at her age when she did that movie, and I'm sure even now she's such a sexual, vivacious woman that even a good makeout scene I thought would have been appropriate for that film, given that it was a homage to blaxploitation movies and stuff. But be that as it may, Dan, you with us?
I'm going in and out.
Yeah. So, what's her name?
Well, to finish the Jackie Brown thought, I thought Pam Grier looked better there than she did or younger.
Oh, well, I wouldn't go that far, but I wouldn't debate you on that.
On Jackie Brown, she looked phenomenal.
Say that again, AC?
I had to Google Pam Grier. I didn't know you guys were talking about. But
hold on a second. Let me put up a couple of pictures here because we are on the internet.
Well, she looks a lot better back then than she does now. But they got this picture where she's wearing this little red thing with an afro. I can dig it, but.
Oh, come on! I'm running through all these pictures of her, but I want a really, really sexy one of her. Hold on a second, sexy Pam Grier. Oh yeah, the red thing. Yes, that's the one there. Pam Grier. All right, guys, I'm going to put this on the screen. You got to promise me you're not going to start masturbating on camera here, okay?
Well, they can only see me from shoulders up, so
we lost Dan again. Dan, I'm sure, is going to wash him the beat off. There's no doubt about it. He's pretending that he's got problems with his phone, but that's not really the case. Let's see. Here it is. There she is. Pam Grier, baby.
Wow, chicken, wow, wow.
Dan, you get a good look at that?
I see it. She looks phenomenal.
Did you whack off already?
I wish I would have.
4,000 Clovers has her in her top 10. AC, of all the movie stars, has your wife ever given you the green light? Yeah, if you ever meet her, go right ahead. You know, she's so beautiful. Have you gotten the green light on anybody?
She's never given me the green light, but she can tell you this. Jennifer Aniston, if I ever had a shot, then Mallory be right there with me. I'm telling you, Jennifer Aniston, man, she is, I mean, even at her age, she's just drop dead gorgeous. I think she might be a vampire because she does not age.
She is beautiful.
Yeah, I saw her the first time, I think in like 93. I was a kid and I snuck in to watch my family. They always like scary movies and they had the Leprechaun on. And she was in that first Leprechaun movie. And I've always had a crush on her ever since. Actually, that was probably my first nightmares, was that little leprechaun guy, which is kind of weird now when I go back to watch them. I'm like, these are comedies. Like they're not even, they're not scary, but I was like 5 at the time. So I was terrified of that little guy.
What do you say, Dan? You're a Jennifer Aniston fan?
Yeah, she's pretty. The first time I remember seeing her was on Ferris Bueller's, not Day Off, but the TV show.
Oh, really? I didn't know she was on that.
Yeah, she played Jeannie Bueller, the Jennifer Grey character from the film and the TV show.
Okay.
It only lasted one season. It was from 1990 or 91. It was on NBC. That's the first time I recall seeing Jennifer Aniston. I told you before, the lady, if I could pay to, I mean, I hate to say this because she's been sexually assaulted by Harvey Weinstein, allegedly. So she wouldn't want me to pay for it, but the point is she's that beautiful, is Annabella Sciorra. That's the lady I like.
Gorgeous.
Annabella Sciorra, what's she in?
Hold on,
she was in The Sopranos. She was in Jungle Fever, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
I have to Google that. This is great radio.
I know.
Tony Soprano's side bitch in season 3 and 4.
Yeah, she's beautiful. And Jungle Fever, I think, was her breakout movie. If you guys remember the Spike Lee.
She's fine as shit, young and old.
Yeah, she's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman. Let me see if I can find a good picture I can put up on the screen here. So many to choose from, man. Excuse me.
Another one I'm a big fan of is Salma Hayek, since we're on the subject.
Oh,
she's another one that's ageless, just an ageless beauty, man. And I guess they got that much money. They got people around them to make sure they still look young, but and she seems like a good person too. Like, I don't know if that's part of the reason. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now she's got to be like in her early 40s there. So I'm trying to find a picture when she was in her 20s. I can't find a good one. Let's see. But anyways, go ahead, AC, with your story.
I just I feel like that kind of has something to do with the attractiveness, as well as some women, just especially celebrities, just seem unapproachable. Like a lot of people are big Kim K fans, and she has a killer body, but she just seems like, I don't know, to me, Jennifer Aniston and Salma Hayek and some of those women, they seem like if I was, for whatever reason, in Beverly Hills and they were out on a patio having brunch, I could just be like, hey, how you doing? Can I buy you a drink? Whereas, you know what I mean?
I totally agree. This is Annabella back probably when in her mid-20s.
I dig the curls, man.
Yeah, she's sexy. So, you know what? One movie that she was in, it wasn't a big role for her, but it was a great movie and with a great cast. Internal Affairs. It's a movie.
Richard Gere.
Yeah, Richard Gere plays a rogue, corrupt cop, and one of the Baldwin brothers witnesses him killing somebody, and so Gere's character is concerned that he's going to turn him in, and Gere is running this illegal syndicate with the cops, just collecting money and doing all sorts of corrupt things and so forth. And his wife in the movie is Annabella Sciorra, and Andy Garcia is also in the movie, and his wife is talking about curls, AC. Nancy Travis in this movie has this beautiful full head of hair of beautiful locks, just gorgeous woman in a really good movie. You guys ever seen it? Internal Affairs?
I don't think I've seen it, but I think you guys have a much larger knowledge for movies than I do.
That's because you've been having sex while we were been watching movies.
Well, I think Dan, you've talked about what's your favorite movie of all time?
Probably Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah, I thought I'd heard you guys talk about that on an episode before. Mine is, to me, it's the greatest movie of all time. It's Forrest Gump. A lot of people, some people hated it, but most people loved it. I mean, they made a freaking restaurant out of it. Every time I go to a restaurant, I got to do the Forrest Gump trivia questions. Like if you ask your waiter or waitress, they'll give you trivia questions about the Forrest Gump movie, and I always love that. That's probably my favorite movie since we're kind of going in this direction. I feel like
the Dan and Aldo show always veers off in to sex and movie talk.
Perfectly fine.
Well, I
with
got
me.
you another name real quick.
Go ahead.
She might be 83 years old now, but by God, I would still sleep with Raquel Welch.
Really?
Raquel Welch. He says, really?
No,
Oh,
she's
I gotta go
she's
back to
still
the
hot.
Google machine here.
I think she's I think she's Hispanic, I want to say. But yeah, she was her breakout movie was
okay.
1 million years BC. Just a phenomenally sexy woman. Yeah, even today, I don't know how
I
old.
bet Jim Brown hit it too.
The football player Jim Brown?
Yeah, they did a movie together.
Yeah, 100
Oh.
Rifles, I believe it's called. You ever seen
All
it,
right.
Dan?
No,
100
no,
Rifles?
I haven't.
I haven't. I've looked for it on Turner Classic. It hasn't come on.
Okay. Well, here's Raquel Welch back in her breakout hit 1 million years BC, and this is a more recent picture of her. You still hit it?
Hey,
Just kidding.
Aldo, the best picture of Raquel Welch
Uh-huh.
is when she's on the Dick Cavett show. See if you can pull that up.
She's on a dick? What?
The Dick Cavett
It's
show.
a family show. Oh, the Cavett show. Let me see if I can find that.
Oh my God, you'd have to see it. Like I could break one off. That's how hot she is.
Please don't. Yeah.
It's from 72, I think.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. I'll put it up on the screen in a second here. Yeah, she's
Oh
from
my God.
4,000 Clover says Megan Fox. She was a total. What? What are you doing? Using that kind of language. Let's see. Raquel Welch and the Dick Cavett show coming up. Yeah, it's going to be coming up. All right.
I think Megan Fox seems like that type of like.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Good fucking God.
We did a bit.
I'm gonna have to tell my wife don't listen to this show. Just
Yeah, tell her not to.
I didn't even go on the show. It was
That's right. Oh, what have you been doing?
That's the way
Oh,
Buffon feels when I'm on.
That's right. that is all right. I forgot what I was going to say. Short-term memory loss is the one of the symptoms of marijuana abuse.
Hey, it's legal up there, man. Abuse the shit out of it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. All right, guys, it's we're an hour and 40 minutes into this crazy Dan and Aldo show. You guys want to pull the plug or stick around some more?
You guys
Up to
seem a
you,
lot more
man.
tired than me, so if you guys are ready to go, I'm just gonna go upstairs and watch the Cowboys. So,
What do you say, Dan? You want to talk a little while longer?
Hey, if you want, I'm in.
Your arm must be tired because he's been holding up his phone.
I've noticed that, man. It's you gotta invest in a laptop or something, man. That's what I'm on. Just
And
a
my
little-
other hand's on my dick, so
Well,
you
I
haven't
mean-
even noticed me beating it.
You show that
Yeah.
woman, you show Raquel Welch in a dress that looks like the sky. I mean, Dan can't help
God
it over
damn,
there.
she's fucking phenomenal.
That was nice. Hey, Dan, show us around your house.
Say it again.
Show us around your house.
I'm just in a fucking storage room, basically. But
Go ahead, take us, go up the stairs and show you. Point the
I saw
camera.
the Cutler fathead, and there's Walter. Looks like.
Well, fuck. Here's Walter.
Yeah,
that's nice,
Right.
man.
Here's Rex. I had Rex.
He's got a Rex Grossman fathead. Holy
Wow.
cow! And he threw an
Do
interception.
you remember when he was named NFC Offensive Player of the Month?
Yeah.
That my girlfriend at the time bought me that during that run where he was Offensive Player of the Month.
Oh wow!
I got Singletary signature. Let's see. You saw Cutler. How about this? The Jim McMahon Super Bowl.
Oh, nice.
Jim signed this. Of course, it's got the seal of authenticity, but not for me. He didn't sign it for me. The Fog Bowl picture. Oh, here's one that'll break your heart. Bring on the Packers.
Oh, tilt down a little bit. We're only seeing the top of the frame of the picture. There you go. Oh, I remember that cover.
Yeah, fuck.
Jeez.
Sucked, man.
So
There goes another one.
The new force. Oh, that's Akeem Olajuwon. He loves
Duncan.
Akeem Olajuwon.
Yeah, that's when he slammed on Kareem there, and they put the Lakers out.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, okay.
So you got Walter, you got Jay, and you've got some stuff that really must stimulate some bad memories, like that Sports Illustrated cover, Bring on the Packers. I mean, that's got to make you.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Lord. I love
Yeah,
this
and then Jay got hurt, and the rest is history. I'm with you though, Dan. Cutler gets a lot of hate, but he's I like him, and it seems like he's more of a celebrity after football than people that liked him while he was playing. Once he did that show with his wife, a lot of people were just like, they tuned in to see Jay because he always had some kind of smart ass comment. He kind of reminds me of myself. I've always got something to say, you know. And
he was on ESPN this week, and he was talking about, you know, the whole Matt Nagy thing, and then he was asked about Justin Fields and does he think that Fields is experiencing some irreparable damage given, you know, the poor coaching staff and stuff. And he said that he could possibly, that this could be so bad for him that, you know, and I'm paraphrasing here, that it possibly could affect his career downfield, down the line. I don't quite see that. I see Justin Fields as the type of guy who has the mental toughness to put up with all the drama that's going on with Matt Nagy and the poor coaching that he's getting, the poor scheming he's getting. What do you think, Dan? Are you concerned about long-term effects for Justin?
With this coach, yes. If you got a real coach in here next year, then he should be okay.
Right. That's what I think. AC, I don't know. What do you think? If there's, to me, he's the type of guy who, with a like if they bring in the Ohio State coach Ryan Day, if they bring him in, this guy is going to perform, you know, at a much higher level really quickly. Now, if Matt Nagy's around next season, there's no telling how bad his career could end up.
Yeah, I don't think he'll have like where he can't bounce back from it. I think just like you guys said, he's got that what's the word I'm looking for? The intestinal fortitude.
Yeah, fortitude
to bounce back and go. And like they were talking about, even when he wasn't named the starter, when he did get named the starter, you know, his family was like, let's go out and celebrate, and he was like, no, I'm gonna watch some tape. I want to win football games. So I feel like he's got that in him too. And like he said, he wants to flip the series with the Packers. He knows how big it is being from Ohio State. Speaking of which, you know, they play Michigan this weekend. That's their big rival. And so he knows about being in a big rival where all eyes are on this team, and just continue to, I mean, do your best to go out there and get the dub, and I think he's got it in him to do that. And I don't think he'll have Ryan Pace, or he may not have Ryan Pace, but I don't think he'll have Nagy around after this season. And we talked about coaches this morning. I'm not a huge fan of calling up a college guy. I know there's been a couple of times where it worked out, but I feel like there's been more instances where it didn't work out. I mean, Nick Saban has been the man in college football. It's hard to argue against a better college football coach than Saban, and he wasn't able to get it done in the league. Now Pete Carroll was able to do it, but overwhelmingly, I feel like college coaches, when they come to the league, we've seen it with Urban Meyer. They're talking about firing him already, and he was a legend at college. What he did at Florida, what he did at Ohio State, he won everywhere. He used to coach at Bowling Green, and he won out there. So he's a guy who won everywhere he went, and then he goes down to take over the Jags, and then now some of that's off the field. They have that picture of him with the female at a club. Actually, I think that was when they were in Cincinnati. He went up to Columbus after that game, but he's just not getting it done. And you want to talk about a bright future that could get ruined. You look at Trevor Lawrence. I mean, this guy is the number 1 overall pick. He's been through adversity. He beat out Kelly Bryant at Clemson to come out and really be the golden boy, even though Justin Fields several times beat him head to head. Trevor Lawrence was the golden boy. And you want to talk about a guy who he never lost. I think his first loss since high school was when he played for the Jags or something like that, like regular season loss, not the playoff or whatever, because Clemson did lose in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm not a fan of calling up a college guy. I know a lot of guys in the chat this morning were talking about Harbaugh. Ryan Day came up. I'm falling more in love with Todd Bowles. I feel like he's the guy. He's a guy that deserves a shot, another shot. He didn't really get a shot before. He went to the Jets, and who wins at the Jets?
Nobody.
And actually, their last winning season was with Todd Bowles. And I think I read an article today. I was just looking through possible head coaches if Ryan Pace stays. I think it was on Sports Mockery or something. So obviously take that with a grain of salt, but it was more of an opinion piece than anything. And it kind of said that I guess Todd Bowles was in for an interview when we hired John Fox, and they let him leave because Ernie Accorsi kind of told him, this is who you need to hire. And they went with that. But who knows if it would have worked out at that time. I think Todd Bowles learning under Bruce Arians the last few years will help him a lot with the offense and teaching a new quarterback, a young quarterback. And so that's my pick. And
Greg Gabriel likes Todd a lot. They're actually friends, and so he's been kind of pushing for him. A name that I heard come up in the media recently, AC, what do you think about Byron Leftwich, who obviously played the quarterback position, and so people are kind of pointing towards him because of perhaps his ability to develop Justin Fields, and also the fact that this is his second season calling plays for Tom Brady, and there's got to be some nice rub off to that. Dan, I was just asking AC because he was talking about Todd Bowles as a potential replacement, but I asked him about what he thinks about Byron Leftwich, the former quarterback. So AC, why don't you tell me what your thoughts are, and then Dan, if you can chime in here if you've got a quarterback favorite. I mean, a coaching prospect a favorite.
My thing with Byron is I don't know how much I hate to say a leash, but I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how much leeway he's given under Bruce Arians, or if Bruce Arians runs his thing like Andy Reid did and really runs it all. And then your coaches aren't prepared to take that head coaching job. And also he's got Tom Brady. I mean, I feel like if you've got the GOAT, it helps you look a lot better. If I could see him with you know, if Jameis Winston had still been in Tampa or someone, you know, a less a more inferior quarterback, if his system still worked under them, then you could kind of see, okay, yeah, this system works. Kind of like Shanahan. I love Shanahan's offense, and even his dad, it showed a history of working no matter who he put at quarterback. And a lot of that has to do with leaning on the run game. And that's another thing. I mean, you can in San Francisco and even with the other Shanahan, I mean, Terrell Davis was an undrafted free agent. You know, you kind of could just, and I'm not saying that these guys are less than because of their draft stock. I mean, we saw Cedric Benson not look too good here, but if you could just plug guys in that it works over decades, you know, then that I feel like that goes a long way in your favor. Byron Leftwich could be a good coach, but I would like to see him without the GOAT at quarterback.
Yeah, I think a lot of debate along those very same lines on Leftwich's futures. There's now that kind of a little bit of doubt. You know, can he do this without a Tom Brady? When before Brady arrived, Leftwich was getting a lot of heat from Tampa Bay fans with the play calling and so forth, and that he even extended to first 4, 5, 6 games of the Brady season, and then finally Arians, Leftwich, and Brady had some meetings. They had some talks after the Bears.
I think it was after the Bears beat them.
Yep, yeah, exactly. And they all listened to Tom.
Yeah.
Tom, what do you want to do?
and that's another thing people were talking about. Why didn't, you know, when Brady was supposedly coming to Chicago and they didn't say it was Chicago, but the quote came out that Brady said, "You're going to go with that guy over me," or something to that effect. And it seemed like he was talking about Trubisky, but with Matt Nagy, the way he's shown that he wants to be, you know, over and all the guy in charge of everything. I don't think even if we brought in Brady and Brady was like, look, this happened and this worked in New England. I feel like Nagy may be like, yeah, well, this worked in Kansas City. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And sometimes his ego has gotten in the way a lot.
It's one of the weird things. I've said this for a few years. Having worked in corporate America, there were similar things that I saw with executives. Some executives were like really, really stubborn about stuff. Well, why don't you try this? Why don't you try this? And why don't you try that? And they're like, I got to this fucking position because of my thinking, of my way. I don't want to hear. And so you see that a lot with coaches, head coaches.
Yeah,
you know, even Lovie Smith with you know, Rex Grossman is our quarterback. That motherfucker was stubborn as all hell.
Yeah, a lot of them are. Mark Stoops here at Kentucky, he ran an offense with Eddie Gran, who ran the offense at Auburn when they had Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown, if you remember, were 2 top 10 draft picks at running back. Yep. So they ran the ball a lot. They just give it to Benny Snell, and Snell is in the league, hasn't done much in Pittsburgh, but they just ran and ran and ran, and teams started to, you know, hone in on that. And it also hurt us in recruiting as far as getting wide receivers that wanted to come here and run the ball all the time.
Yep.
And then Mark Stoops went out and hired the LA Rams quarterback coach, Liam Cohen, who is now our offensive coordinator. He's opened it up, and all of a sudden you've got wide receivers that want to come here, and we're still running the ball, which they do that in LA. You know, they still run the ball, but having more of a open, you know, and that's a instance of a head coach saying, okay, yeah, we were winning games. Like I said, Mark Stoops has won almost the same amount of games as Bear Bryant did when he was here at Kentucky before he went to Alabama. And but he was winning them kind of ugly, you know, running the ball, controlling the clock. But now that he's opening up, he's still winning ball games, and his offense looks more fun, and he's getting better recruits because of it.
And you got a favorite that you've been thinking about as a potential successor to Matt Nagy?
No, I was just wigging out. Like, why does this keep crashing? I think it's just because I'm using data,
That's
I
right.
rebooted my phone.
So that helps.
Hopefully that'll take care of it. I'm definitely open to Todd Bowles. I mean, because of his success with that game plan in the Super Bowl, I would rather go that route than try to bring in someone else for like Eric Bieniemy. Like, I don't want to run Kansas City light again. We've tried it twice now. Leftwich, like I think AC was saying there, you don't know how much credit you can attribute to him. It's kind of like when we hired Adam Gase as OC, and it proved when Gase was the head coach in Miami and New York that maybe Peyton Manning was the reason he was successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do the same mistake, bring in Leftwich, and it's all Brady, and then you just hired the wrong guy again,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And another thing that I touched on this morning with Todd Bowles, and a reason why I think he would be a good fit, is his defense is aggressive. And we have so much age on that defense that we're going to have turnover, obviously. So you're going to have younger guys coming in, and the best way to make up for, I don't want to say lack of talent, but younger guys learning on the job is obviously getting pressure on the quarterback, and an aggressive defensive scheme will do that. So if you're out, if you don't have Khalil Mack or Robert Quinn, with his age, if knock on wood, he doesn't, if he starts having injuries pop up, you can plug in some of those younger guys and just let them go hunt the quarterback. Let them go make tackles in the backfield that just throw offenses completely off. If we can do that, I feel like that's another reason to bring in Todd Bowles, is his aggressive defensive scheme. And
he should definitely be one of those guys that you interview. And, a lot of people have been talking about Ryan Day, the Ohio State coach who coached Justin Fields. One of the biggest obstacles to that potentially happening is his salary. The guy makes almost $9 million a year as head coach of Ohio State.
And he's the man in that whole state. I mean,
the man. They love him. He's one of the highest paid people in the state. And so if the Bears, in the unlikely event the Bears says, okay, we'll give you $10 million. How many years for $10 million? He's going to say 10. And so it'll be like a John Gruden contract. Will you guys want a head coach signed for 10 years at $10 million? That's $100 million guaranteed.
No. And I think if you did get into a bidding war with Ohio State, it may not reflect. I mean, obviously we have more money than a college, but at Ohio State, football is king. Even they do have good basketball now, but football has been, and I feel like will always be, king at Ohio State. And they will pay whatever it takes to keep that guy there. And he doesn't have to worry about jumping up to the next level and having issues with that. He doesn't have to worry about, and that helps him with recruiting there at Ohio State. He's like, look, I'm going to be here. So I'm not going anywhere. You can come play for me. And I just don't see it. I don't know, I don't see a lot of Big Ten football either. Other than, when I do see it, it's usually Ohio State beating the brakes off Mel Tucker there at Michigan State. But yeah, that was
and I was frankly surprised that Mel Tucker team looked that bad. I mean, that was pretty ugly, that defeat. I hate to bring this up, but we have to talk about it. We have to talk about it because it is on the mind of some people. By the way, Vidal Sasson in the chat room says that the Bears players, the Bears team, gave Matt Nagy the game ball, which a nice gesture for everything that he went through. There's no doubt about it. But I am sure that Bears management also gave this sign to Matt Nagy to post in front of his house.
I think I did want to touch on that because there were some times, like in the last 2 games, where I thought the defense was kind of quitting, and I was like, are they quitting on this coach? Is he losing his locker room? And then they came out today and they didn't quit. I mean, I thought they were going to start to quit there at the end, but they pulled it together and won. I really think they like this head coach, and I think they want to win. He seems like a hell of a guy. He seems like a motivator, a guy that players want to play for. But if you're not winning ball games, and just like he said in his press conference, he knew it came with the territory when he came here 4 years ago. If you're not winning ball games, you're out the door. They're not going to – most franchises, I think, would have let him go last year or the year before. You know, you win in 2018 on the back of an incredible defense that had historic numbers as far as turnovers and getting to the quarterback and stuff. And then 2019, when the defense isn't doing as much, your offense, who you came in to improve, it's not looking adequate. And we've continued to see that. And Bears management, their hands have got to be tied with this. I just don't see how there's any way they can bring him back. I mean, we just beat a winless Lions team. Granted, they fought hard. There's a lot of tough losses they've had.
Yep.
But we just beat them with a last-second field goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is Bears football? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is mediocre okay? We backed into the playoffs. They wanted to say, well, we went into the playoffs, 3 out of the last 4 years or something like that, right. And that was their big thing. But we backed into the playoffs last year. If the Cardinals would have pulled any victory out of their ass at the end of the season, we're not a playoff team at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see how we can keep him. I mean, like I said, the players seem like they want to play for him. They all seem to like him, but if you're not winning ball games, you're not going to be an NFL head coach for very long.
I agree. So, but there is that possibility, right? It happened last year after a 6-game losing streak. They went on, won enough games, back into the playoffs, like you said. So we got to talk about it. We got to talk about what happens if they do go on a winning streak in the unlikely event. So I've got up the standings right now, and right now they're in that hunt. You know, they always put up on NBC pregame show before Sunday Night Football game, who's in the hunt and stuff. Mm-hmm. Look at the second place teams here. Eagles 5-6. Washington is 4-6 in the East.
Yeah, if you click the playoff picture there, it might show it better.
Oh yeah, there you go. Look at you, man. You know this shit better than me. Let's see. Let's in the hunt. There you go. So
Cardinals at 1.
Yeah, and the NFC is on the right. So Cardinals have the best record. Packers are trying to overtake them to take home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Bucks, Cowboys, those are all your division winners. Then in second place, it's the Rams. They're 7-3. And now you go to the Vikings because there's 2 more playoff positions, wildcard shots. So the Vikings are at 5-5, and you got 2 games against them.
Yeah.
So you can overtake them. I know I sound stupid here, even entertaining the idea that the Bears are going to make the playoffs. But there's always a possibility. I'll be rooting for them. I don't care. I want them to win. And then you got the Saints at 5-5 also. And so I don't know, man. What would you say if the Bears got on a tear? They back into the playoffs. Does Matt Nagy have an argument? He goes in and says, "What do you mean you're going to fire me? I got you in the playoffs 3 out of my 4 seasons."
Well, to me, it comes down to a couple of things, and I don't think they're going to happen. But Justin Fields continued improvement is one thing they've got to see, because he hasn't shown the ability to improve the quarterback. He was brought here to improve Mitchell Trubisky and did not. He did not put him in position to succeed. So you got to see Justin Fields' improvement. And then you've got to, win those ball games. And, I mean, we saw the Vikings kind of put it on. I mean, the Packers came back at the end of the game and made it close. Right. But the Vikings for the majority of that game because I went to a bar and grill to watch the game last week, and I had they had the Vikings and Packers like right over here, and I had Bears Ravens right in front of me.
Oh, cool.
And that Vikings offense was humming. I mean, they've got so many weapons, and between Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, and we have one good corner. I just don't see us winning games against the Vikings, to be completely honest.
I totally hear you. Hear you. Yeah, it's definitely an uphill climb. But given that it is an uphill climb, I mean, if it happens, and depending on the style of how it happens, then all of a sudden the conversation might shift. So here we are. The schedule's up on the screen, and we're headed into the third part of the season. As AC is saying, you got the Cardinals, you got the Packers, you got the red-hot Vikings team that's playing really good. I haven't seen they haven't played yet. So, and then you got the Seahawks, which is on the road. Always a tough place to win. And, of course, the Giants, a very beatable team at home. But, yeah I don't think it's going to happen. I would actually bet that it wouldn't happen, but I also bet on them to lose today, so I lost that. Yeah, 25.
Well, I thought they would lose today. I said it this morning, but it also depends on how the offense looks. This guy was brought in to run a good offense, and you were averaging 14, 15 points a game. Yep. That's god awful. And so to me, even if we finished out and backed into the playoffs, if we're scoring 15 points a game, you've got to believe that they think they can get that from somewhere else. And that would be another reason for Nagy to be fired. I mean, the schedule's brutal. You know, the Cardinals are red hot, and I'm sure they'll have Kyler Murray back for that game because why wouldn't they? Yeah. And then you play the Packers in Green Bay. That's supposed to be Sunday night. I don't know if they'll flex it or not because if we continue to lose, why would they, other than just to, kiss Aaron Rodgers' ass and cheer him on about Lambeau Field.
Please don't show that on national TV, please.
It seems that's the only time I see him on national television is usually when they get embarrassed, and it sucks as a Bears fan down here in Kentucky. I mean, I know you probably hear it closer up there, but when I go to work, I'm the only Bears fan I know. There's Packers fans, there's Cowboys fans. I actually got a buddy at work who's down in Dallas right now to watch that game. I mean, we don't have a team here in Kentucky.
He's not real happy right now. It's 17-6 with 30 seconds to go in the first half.
Wow. Yeah, that sucks for my fantasy team. I got Dak, so
I got Ezekiel. Oh, wait a minute. Handoff to somebody. Ezekiel just scored a touchdown for me.
Oh, okay. Wish I had a TV down here.
I also had Marquise Goodwin in my starting lineup because it was a bye week, and I got A-Rob and so forth. And so I had to pick somebody off of waivers, and I picked Goodwin last week.
Right, I saw you picked him up. Yeah.
Yeah, he scored a touchdown today. He did shit for me. He gave me a big fat 0, fucker.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to ask you this question. Let's read. James says, Justin Fields clearly doesn't want to play for Nagy anymore. He even faked an injury to get out of the field against Ravens. So I want to ask you this, AC. What the fuck is wrong with James Christus?
Yeah, I don't see what he said. They showed an MRI that he had cracked ribs. Like, how do you can't fake that? It's like when Jay Cutler got hurt, to go back to Dan's poster. When Jay Cutler got hurt, I was in the Army. And again, there's not a ton of Bears fans other than older guys like yourself or guys that are from the Chicago area, because they were dominant in the 80s. Let's be honest. That was 40 years ago. So there's not a lot of young Bears fans around. And when Cutler got hurt, I heard it so much. Quitler. He's not really hurt. Aaron Rodgers would never do that, blah, 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 blah. And then it came out that he had a sprained MCL. And I was like, really? Like the doctors are telling him he can't play. It has nothing to do with him.
Right.
And
And
then
remind me, maybe you remember this better. And by the way, Dan's phone just crapped out of him. So he wished everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And he was really glad that you jumped in to save the day here, AC. So he sends you his best. But my question didn't, because I know Dan would remember this like yesterday, didn't Jay start the third quarter and try to give it a go and then said, yeah, this isn't working, and he took himself out of the game? I think that's what happened. He even tried after halftime. I have no doubt at all that he wanted to play that game. The injury hurt him. Jay Cutler, you can say a lot of bad things about him, and they would be true. Terrible leader, very moody, not a great teammate with all of his teammates. Some guys liked him, but most guys didn't care for him, especially on the defensive side. You could say all that and a lot more. Erratic throwing at times. But the one thing you cannot say is that he was a quitter, that he was a coward. That guy played his fucking heart out. He gave up his body in ways that most people wouldn't even dream of doing. So he was not that. I know Mike North hates Jay Cutler, called him a fake and a fraud, and maybe he is from a quarterbacking standpoint, but from a courage standpoint, that guy he earned my respect with the way he played out there.
Well, I don't really want to talk about Mike North's opinion on quarterbacks. I mean, he's already shitting all over Justin Fields, and KB went at him on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that.
Good. I didn't see that. No.
Yeah, KB wasn't too happy that these he said something about, me and Hub, we've been around for a while. We know our football. And KB was like, yeah, so y'all have seen more football. So you saw, do you not realize the game has evolved? But I don't really want to get into that. But I loved Cutler, and never heard of anyone talk more about the way a quarterback looks, his facial expressions on the sideline. Like, come on. I mean, love him or hate him, he had a cannon for an arm. He turned the ball over too much. And I've told my father-in-law this many times, because he hates Cutler. He's always hated Cutler. He would say Orton was better than Cutler. And I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Orton was a game manager at his best. He was average at best.
Right.
But Cutler, when he was brought to Chicago, he was the missing piece. And that's why he catches so much flack. We had the defense, we had the coaching, we had Devin Hester returning kicks and punts. So we thought we had everything except for the quarterback. If we could just get a quarterback, it's all over. So we had all that pressure. And the guy grew up in Santa Claus, Indiana, a Bears fan. So it's not like he didn't want to succeed. You know what I'm saying? He loved this franchise when he was a child. So he wanted to win just as bad as everybody else wanted him to win. It just didn't work out, and he turned the ball over too much. And it doesn't help when you've got Jamarcus Webb as your left tackle and Devin Hester as your number one wide receiver, who, by the way, when he left Chicago, he went to Atlanta and he was their fourth wide receiver. And that's the guy you were trying to plug in at number one. You never drafted anything around him. You never tried to fix the offensive line around him. And you let your defense get older and older as the years went by. Exactly. And so everything was on Jay to do it all. And he could not do it all. And
excellent analysis. Excellent analysis.
I know Dan on the show Tuesday was talking about his the worst Bears teams that he can remember, and I was so glad when he brought up that 2014 year, because man, we had everything in place. It seemed like it's like
we brought Cutler in 2008, right? No, 2009 was it?
I think it was 2009. I think so.
All right, so here's I put up on the screen here based on what you're talking about. Here's the biggest problem that happened. So we trade draft picks away. So we don't, in 2010, we don't have our top draft picks because of the Cutler trade. So in the third round, you get Major Wright, you get Corey Rutten. In the fourth round, you get Joshua Moore. So you're drafting three defensive players, and you've already got Jay Cutler, but you spend the 6th round draft pick on a quarterback, when you can get
That quarterback looked good in college because he had, if he's the one I'm thinking of, he had Antonio Brown at wide receiver.
Yep.
So they were like, this quarterback looks good. Let's draft him in the 6th round.
Yep.
And they could have. Ryan Pace, speaking of Ryan Pace, he would have found a 6th round gem at wide receiver right there.
And that's the key is like, exactly what you're saying. They failed to surround him with guys. Now, they drafted Jamarcus Webb as their, 7th round tackle. And we know what Jamarcus Webb was. The following year, okay, they drafted Gabe Karimi. I had no problem at all.
I was so wrong on Gabe Karimi. I thought he was going to be good.
Me too. This guy was a major disappointment, and I still think it was that injury that he suffered. I don't remember if it was a preseason game or his first game with the Bears, but he had an ankle injury that just all of a sudden he went from promising to putrid. And then, so again, they focus on the defense. And look at this, another effing quarterback. You got Jay Cutler. You drafted one last year. You're drafting another quarterback. How about taking a shot at a speedster wide receiver or a possession wide receiver or another offensive lineman who can protect Jay Cutler? And on it goes, Alshon Jeffrey was a good pickup. I was a little worried about that one, but I was definitely worried about Shea McClellan. I was like, who?
Yeah. When they drafted Shea, I can remember all the talk leading up into the draft because I'm kind of a draft nerd. I read up, I look at mock drafts, and I read stories about the players coming out to see it. And the only thing I ever saw was Shea McClellan to the Packers, Shea McClellan to the Packers, Shea McClellan to the Packers. And apparently they were going to plug him in at inside linebacker. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So when we drafted him, I was like, did we just draft this guy so that the Packers didn't draft him? Is this what we're doing now? Yeah. He didn't fit your scheme, and he didn't blow anybody away at Boise State. Mm-hmm. But you just drafted the guy because to keep him from going to Green Bay. And so
crazy. And that's why I keep getting back to that point of, if you're going to bring in a new general manager, which the team should, the first question is what is your vision? What do you see we can build here?
Right.
Resources that we have. Our salary cap situation, our draft picks. What's your vision as to where we could be in year 1, where we could be in year 2, where we could be by year 5 of if we sign you for a 5-year contract? I want to know what your vision is, and then tell me how you're going to get there. And if that guy has a vision, and all of a sudden you say, holy cow, this sounds really good. He's got a great plan. He's talking about coaches and general manager or head coaches and position coaches that I've heard of, and I respect these guys and so forth. This sounds good. You got to give that person the keys, and you got to say, do it, and do it your style. And hopefully then that guy is talking about blowing everything up, bringing in everybody. And even if he looks at Justin Fields and says, yeah, I don't think Justin Fields is the right guy. I know that's who you got. But if he can figure out a way to bring in a replacement for Justin Fields who could be better, which I doubt, because I think Justin Fields is going to be a superstar. But even if he says that and he can convince you of that, then that guy should be on board. And then that guy should meet the media and say the same thing to us fans that he said to George McCaskey, Ted Phillips, whoever's doing the hiring, and then go out there and tell the fans what that plan is and how he's going to go about it without, of course, giving out any strategic secrets to how he's going to do it. But
we've talked about it on BFTG. We have young pieces on this offense. Now, the defense, you've only got Roquan, who's about to be re-signed, and deservedly so. You got Jalen Johnson, and then you've got, to me, you've got to hold on to Mac. Travis Gibson has shown to be a good backup, but I don't see him being the guy like Mac is. But you've got young pieces on offense. If you look, we just drafted Borum, who's playing well at right tackle. He could, in my opinion, go to the left side next year when Peters is no longer here. You've got Tevin Jenkins, who you just drafted in the second round. You need to figure out where he fits in, whether it's guard or tackle. And then you've got your two guards aren't too crazily old. They're not playing great, but they're not playing terrible either.
James Daniels is like 23 years old, and his contract is coming up. A lot of people are saying, get rid of Daniels, I don't see that. That guy's a developmental guy who has spent now 4 seasons or 4 seasons with the Bears. I think his best days are ahead of him. You got to re-sign this guy. If anyone you would think of maybe moving on from is Cody White here, because he's getting into that big fatty part of his contract. So if you release him, there is a cap hit, but maybe you keep him because he's not terrible. He had a bad penalty today that almost cost us the game, knocking us out of field goal range. But nonetheless, my point is that James Daniels is one of those, in my opinion, he's one of those core guys in that offensive line. Like you said, Larry Borum should be, hopefully he's showing promise, should be a core guy. Hopefully Tevin Jenkins is going to be a core guy. So at least now you've got 3 for sure off blocks to that offensive line, and you got to find 2 more. If the left tackle, of course, being very, very important.
And then you look at the weapons around your young quarterback. Mooney is looking, I don't know if he's going to be a number 1 wide receiver, but he's looking very good. His separation, statistically, we have the lowest separation of any NFL team. We are number 32 in that position. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he's even ever open is a statistical anomaly.
It is.
Cole Kmet, he's had some drops, but he's starting to make the tough catches, and he's going to fall forward. That's the thing I love about Kmet. He will fight for yardage, whether it's a screen pass. We saw it on a curl pass today where he just turned around and kind of dove forward to make sure he got the first down. Yeah. He fights hard, and he's another guy who grew up a Bears fan. He wants to see this organization do well. He wants to win. And then, you got Jimmy Graham, who's probably going to be gone, but Jesse James, you just signed him. I don't know how long his contract is, but I feel like you can plug him in where Jimmy Graham is. And if you don't feel that way, then you can always, draft a late round tight end and try and plug him. And we got 4 or 5 tight ends. Horsted could be a guy that you try to keep around. And then start drafting guys on defense to replace those older players. Danny Trevathan, my guy from Kentucky, this is probably his last run in Chicago. I don't see him being back next year. Akeem Hicks, one of my favorite players, I don't see him being here next year. So you're going to have these aging players that you've got to replace, and the best way to replace them is through the draft, but you don't have a ton of draft picks. But that's going to be, like you said, when you bring in a GM or a head coach, you got to know what his plan is for the future. He's going to have to tell you, we don't have that guy. We've got this, and this as a contingency plan, to build forward. And we've talked about it a lot on BFTG as far as the Georgia defense is legendary. Literally, they're doing things that we haven't seen since like the 01 Alabama team or something like that. And they've got players on all 3 levels, and Pace has already got a history of whoever is scouting there at Georgia. They've got a lot of pull with Ryan Pace if he's still the guy in charge.
I got a remark on this comment from Bear Truth 9. Because the Bears restructured Jimmy Graham's contract, there's now a $4 million dead cap hit next season. They had to do that because, and I have a lot of respect for Hub Arkish, but one of the things I disagreed with him is when he made the statement months ago that Ryan Pace has done a good job managing the cap. No, he hasn't. This team is suffering because of the cap, and not only suffering now, but into the future because they keep deferring this money to future cap space. And so it's going to be harder and harder to find players who are quality players for those backup rows, and in fact, in some of the starting positions. So the whole idea that they decided to keep Jimmy Graham this season, and instead of saving, because his money this season was non-guaranteed. It was like $8-9 million that was not guaranteed. They could have released him, and they could have used that money for other areas. Instead, they've kept him and now deferred money so that it's spread out over into next season, and that's, to me, just a waste of money. Why? Because you had needs in other areas, and also because I truly believe Jesper Horsted could deliver the same results that Jimmy Graham is delivering this season. The same result.
I think Jesse James could do that as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, the only time we've seen Graham have a connection is with Dalton. When Dalton gets on the field, he's got a connection with Jimmy Graham. I don't know if that's from him being named the starter out the gate, and he spent time with him at training camp and preseason and all this and that may improve as Justin Fields continues as your starter. But yeah, you could have used that money in a lot of other places.
Yep.
I mean,
and BT9 has an update on his research here, and thank you for doing this, BT. Jimmy's cap hit will be $1.5 million if they keep him next season, but it will cost $4 million if they release him. So
he'll be on the team.
You really think that Jimmy Graham should be on this roster next season?
I think if it's, I know it's only $3 million, which doesn't seem like a ton, but I think he'll be at least on the roster just so they don't have to pay that extra dead cap, especially if we're still paying.
So tight. Yeah, right.
Especially if we're still paying Nagy whatever his coaching salary will be next year for not coaching us.
Well, unfortunately, that doesn't count to the salary cap. So
right, but
it's like I think it was Mike North on a tweet recently said, the franchise has $5.5 billion. It's worth $5.5 billion. So let's not worry about what they're paying coaches that they've released. Let's get it right is the key thing. So
yeah.
All right. So we talked about the potential of the Bears backing up into the playoffs. It's going to be much harder this season than it was last season. And the prospect of them beating some of the teams on this roster, there's no way they're going to beat the Vikings twice. I just don't see that. There's no way they're going to beat the Cardinals at home or the Packers. I just don't see that. If they do beat these guys, and I hope that they do, if they beat the Cardinals next week, my hope is that we are seeing guys like Cole Kmet score a touchdown. I want to see the young guys further develop themselves to issue a promise that, hey, we got this next season. We're going to be here for a while. We're your stars for the future. That's what I want to see, man.
Yeah, I agree. You want to see those, even if it's not a win, if it's a loss, you want to see those young guys continue to improve.
Yep.
Like I said, with even offensive linemen with Larry Borum, he went back-to-back weeks against Bosa and T.J. Watt and gave up one sack. You love to see that. There's veteran offensive tackles that can't say that. Look at the offensive line we played against today. They have veteran presences in that offensive line and how many holds and times they got beat. Taylor Decker, I think, is their left tackle. He's a hell of an offensive tackle, or he was, and he was getting his ass kicked by Quinn. There's no other way to put it. If he wasn't beating him, he felt like he was holding him every play. And to see Larry Borum continue to improve like that, and like we spoke on Tevin Jenkins, we might see after this little mini bye because he seems to be improving a little each week. I don't know where they're going to stick him or if they're just going to have him as an insurance policy at offensive tackle or guard or whatever. But that's another guy that you want to see continue to play better. Artie Burns, we saw him come in today, and like I said, he got beat on the touchdown, but there was a couple of plays that he made where I was like, okay, so that's another young guy. He was a first-round pick in Pittsburgh that we brought in. We let him learn through our system with the practice squad. It's another young guy. Jalen Johnson, will continue to see him play well. See Roquan continue to improve on his numbers. By the way, Pro Bowl voting is open, so if you barflies want to go to NFL.com and vote for the Pro Bowl, make sure we get our guy Roquan noticed this year because he gets slept on he gets slept on every year, and his numbers are better than the guys that are in the Pro Bowl or even the guys that are named All-Pro. And I don't understand it. I don't know if it's a Bears. I'd hate to say a Bears bias because if there's one position we have a history of, it's linebacker and running back.
Exactly. So you would think that would get them more votes, right? Because people have that kind of bias, maybe in terms of when people vote. Sometimes I should say when I vote, sometimes I will say to myself, well, this guy comes from a great offensive line team, so I'll vote for him because I don't know any of these other guys.
Well, yeah, you see it on O-line and you see it in the college ranks, the all SEC teams. It's very difficult for, like, this year, Darian Kennard, our right tackle, is an All-American. You do not see that very often because they usually just go, who's playing at Alabama, who's playing at Georgia. Those are your offensive line all SEC players, regardless of what they've done, regardless of if they've even played a single snap in college football. Mm-hmm. They go to that school. They were a 5-star recruit. These are your all SEC guys. So, yeah, the bias you would think would get them more votes. I don't understand it with Roquan. Maybe it's because he's not loud and boisterous and yelling out there on the field like a Ray Lewis or something. I don't know. He
needs to hang out with more porn stars like he did that one time in that boat.
I guess, man. Shout out to him.
Really. Pear Truth 9 says, Aldo AC, who are 2 wide receivers you target next year in free agency? So keep in mind the money. So let me call up that free agency list and let's play general manager here, have some fun. We know one thing is that Allen Robinson is a free agent next year, so let's just
we might be able to get him to stay for cheap the way he's put out this year.
That's right. Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, Devontae Adams, that's the cream of the crop. Those 3 guys are going to demand double.
I don't think we can afford Chris Godwin or Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is going to be paid the highest wide receiver in the league.
DeAndre Hopkins money, which is close to $20 million, if I remember correctly. But if it's not, it will be about that much. There's no doubt in my mind.
Will Fuller, to me, he's hurt too often. He shows a lot of promise when he's on the field, but you got to be on the field. And a thing that Fox used to say, sometimes your best ability is availability, and Will Fuller has not had it. Jamison Crowder is a slot receiver. Maybe we can bring him in because we've got Mooney. If we can talk Allen Robinson into coming back, maybe we can slide Jamison Crowder into the slot.
Mm-hmm. T.Y. Hilton, I think his better days are behind them. Juju Smith-Schuster is a talent, but, man, it just seems like availability and some of the perhaps discipline problems. I'm not super familiar with that. Emmanuel Sanders is a guy who's a super old veteran, so he's not a guy that you're looking to sign. Sammy Watkins, I don't know a lot about Keelan Cole other than
Keelan Cole went to, I believe, Kentucky Wesleyan or Western Kentucky, one of those smaller Kentucky schools. He burst onto the scene down in Jacksonville. He's a guy I like a lot, but I don't know how he would fit. Some of this is scheme dependent, because Keelan Cole played really well in Jacksonville. He went up to the Jets, got a decent little paycheck, and he hasn't done much up there. But they're kind of rebuilding that. Mike Williams is a guy who's going to get paid this offseason.
He should. That's a guy that you should target. Let me do a little research on what his age is. Well, tell us about Mike Williams.
Young. Mike Williams he's a big receiver. He's a young guy out there in LA. I don't see them letting him leave. I think he'll at the very least get franchise tagged because their offense revolves a lot around Mike Williams. Zach Pascal is another one of those speedy little slot receivers that he had a pretty good relationship, it seemed like, with Phillip Rivers last year. But this year with Wentz, I don't know if it's a timing issue or what that is. But he hasn't really – I mean, he might be a guy you can bring in for cheap.
There's Jakeem Grant, who the Bears traded to acquire from the Dolphins. I think they gave up a 6th-round draft pick, which is, again, indicative of Ryan Pace has to sign free agents to fill in holes because he didn't draft properly. It just frustrates the hell out of me. But
I thought the Jakeem Grant trade was like a conditional 7th round pick or something.
It could be. I'll look that up, but I gotta believe that it's could be a 1-year rental, and that's.
I wouldn't mind seeing him re-signed. He solidifies your punt return and kick return.
It's got
program
some speed burst, man. I love the way it gets going so quick. This is acceleration is outstanding. Anybody else? I'm just going to scroll down this list here, and if you see a name that you think is a guy that perhaps we should target. Oh, look at Christian Kirk. He's a possibility, right?
I think Christian Kirk's going to get paid quite a bit. There's a guy there, Josh Reynolds. We saw him today in Detroit. He played in L.A., and he wanted out of L.A. so he could get more targets because they just didn't have the balls to go around. He's a young guy that I could see us maybe going after. But again, a lot of this, I'd rather wait to see who we have a head coach who would fit in their scheme.
Because, yeah, absolutely. You're totally right. I mean,
because if you're looking at Nagy's scheme, you got guys like Tavon Austin there, or I think it was Albert Wilson was up there. He's a guy that he played with in Kansas City. Those are the type of players that he would go after. And if we bring someone else in, maybe they'll want something. I'd love to get I think Mooney's like 5'11". I'd love to get a big guy. Maybe it's a draft pick. A big guy with some speed, not a crazy burner, but a big guy that can go up and get the catch on the other side. And
what about Alshon Jeffrey? What would you sign him?
He's always hurt, man, and now he's got drops. Has he even playing anymore? I haven't heard anything
I don't think he's on an active roster right now. No, only because of injury, I believe. But here's a couple of names that just kind of jumped out at me as I scrolled down. Michael Gallup with the Cowboys. This guy is super, super talented, but
KB loves that guy.
Yeah, does he? Well, he should. I mean, the guy's super talented, natural talent. Because I remember we talked to him down at the Senior Bowl, and one of the things that he said was, playing here at the Senior Bowl made me realize that I really got to put my head into the playbook because I just can't get by on natural talent. So he came to the NFL. He's been learning that lesson with the Cowboys. He's had some injury issues, but that guy's a guy you should definitely consider, particularly if you can get him as a value signing, right?
Yeah, I worry about injury with him and what he's going to ask for.
Yeah.
He played college in Texas as well, didn't he? I think SMU or something like that.
Yes.
So all that time in Texas, we don't even know how he would. I mean, I hate to bring the weather into the factor, but we don't know how he would react to playing in the cold for the first time ever and outdoors. I mean, He's definitely could be on the list. I'm not counting it out. I just don't know what he's going to ask for, and the injury concerns worry me. Tajay Sharp, I'm seeing here. Yeah. He used to play for the Titans, and he was one of those guys that would pop on every once in a while. He would have nothing, and then have a big game, depending on I guess the matchup. He could be a guy that.
We saw him down at the Senior Bowl, and he was actually one of the players of the games, offensive players of the game. But his pro career has not really taken off at a consistent level. He has had. He is the kind of guy, though, that he should be on the list because in 2019, his second year with the league, he had 73 catches for over 1,000 yards. And let me see if I can find touchdowns here to see if he's a touchdown maker too. For some reason, I can't find the touchdown. No, I can't find it anyway. But then his level has dropped off by 20 receptions in 2020, and this season he's only had 7 catches because of injury. So these are the guys, though, that the Bears are going to have to target. Is these kind of value guys? These guys. Go ahead.
I didn't realize DJ Chark was a free agent. That's a guy. Yeah. I think he played at the Senior Bowl and went the heck off.
That's what I was just talking about. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I was just talking about. No, you said TJ Sharp. I misunderstood that for DJ Shark. That's the guy I was talking about. So, yeah, DJ Shark is somebody you got to put on that list.
That's definitely a guy I would look after because he's got speed, he's got size, he's got a I wouldn't say he has the crispest of route running.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not Danny Shimon sitting here breaking down the tape. Don't get me wrong, but what I can see from my couch are the games that I've seen him play in Jacksonville. I've watched a few Jacksonville games because they went up and grabbed my guy Josh Allen from here at Kentucky. The Josh Allen, by the way. Whenever they played Buffalo, he showed them who the Josh Allen was. I think he had a sack, a fumble recovery, an interception. So he balled out in that game. But so I've watched a little bit of Jacksonville's games, and DJ Chark is a guy that I liked a lot coming out of college. He was the guy that I wanted the Bears to target in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not mind that at all to bring him in. I don't know I'd like to know his measurables, like how tall he is. Because like I said, what I would really like to have on the other side of Mooney is a big, tall, almost possession, like what we have with Allen Robinson.
Yes.
Most of the time.
Definitely.
I mean, if we can get him back, I have no issue with having Allen Robinson back. But you gotta figure out what he wants and what we can afford. I don't know if we can. It just depends on what the market's going to give him.
Have you done any work on Jahan Dotson out of Penn State? He is considered like the top second-tier wide receiver in this upcoming draft. According to an article that I saw on FanSided, they had him at number 1 on the top second tier, along with David Bell, Jameson Williams, and John Mechie III. Because I think those are the guys that the Bears are probably going to be looking at. There's almost impossible that they're going to get a tier 1 wide receiver out of this draft. You know, like the kid from Ohio State, Olave.
Yeah, Olave.
Yeah.
I know Justin Fields would love to have Olave, but I don't see us being able to get him with where our draft pick is. But I haven't watched a ton of Big Ten football. Like I've said, I'm down here in SEC country. We've got, Alabama's got a couple of wide receivers. They seem to put in guys that break out every year. I mean, Julio Jones went there, Devontae Smith, who's playing well in Philly. They got Waddle. They just reload, man. And so they've always got guys that play pretty well. Did you mention Minchie? I think he's an Alabama wide receiver.
Yes, he is.
I've seen some of his stuff, and he's pretty good. I'm trying to think. Like I said, I don't know about the Penn State guy because I don't see a ton of Big Ten football. Kentucky had their first 1,000-yard receiver this year in Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a guy from here. He was from Frankfurt, and he chose to go to Nebraska because at the time our offense was to run the ball. He said actually in his recruitment, he came to see us play Vanderbilt in one of his final visits, and there was literally 20 passing yards in the whole game. So he was like, man, I can't come here and do this. So he went to Nebraska, played, and they tried to stick him at running back. So he transferred back, and this year he's got 1,000 yards. I don't know if he'll decide to stay at Kentucky or if he'll go into the draft because he does have another year of eligibility. But he's a good, speedy receiver. He's not real big, though. He's more – I could see him as a slot guy or something like that. I know there's a guy out of USC, but I think he might be a top 10 draft pick. I think his name's Drake Jackson, something like that. I feel like that's right.
Drake London.
London, yeah. So he's a good receiver, but he's going to be far out of our reach, I do believe.
Well, it's going to be fascinating. Whoever is going to be the general manager for the Chicago Bears next season, I do hope that it's going to be somebody new, just because of Ryan Pace's failure to. He only got us to the playoffs one time. Only a 0-1 record in the postseason. 70 years in the job, and still trying to figure out how to put together a stellar offense. I just don't see how he can turn it around. Some of those other general managers that have, after about the same amount of time, they were given the opportunity to get their third coaches in. We talked about this earlier in the show, but I don't know if I want to trust this guy to do it. Now, again, I'm looking at it from the opposing point of view. Yeah, it was John Fox was foisted upon him, but I just don't feel right about Ryan Pace. I don't think he's the guy for it, man. I just don't.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I love what he's been able to do with late round picks, and he's traded for guys that we wanted him to trade for. We all wanted Khalil Mack. A lot of us wanted him to bring in Robert Quinn when he became a free. Heck, I wanted him when he was a free agent before. So we got him a little bit later, but we still went and got him. But over and over, I mean, he's had one first round pick pan out. It's Roquan. Other than that, it's hard to argue against what else he's been able to do. And as a general manager, you win and lose not only on free agency, but in the draft. And when you haven't drafted well and you've traded away picks to make up for your draft mistakes, eventually they're going to get tired of your crap and just cut you loose. But I love talking draft. If those guys on Draft on Tap ever want to let me join, I would love, to do a show with Neil and Danny. Those guys, they have a lot more knowledge than I do, but
it would be a great conversation because you're really gotten damn good at this podcasting thing, man. I remember when you first started with the Barfly Tailgate Show, it was, man, does AC have a voice? Does he talk?
Does he talk? Yeah. Now it's the AC show.
I love it, man. You do a great job on the Barfly Tailgate Show, which everyone, if you haven't heard AC and the rest of the guys on the Barfly Tailgate Show, usually on Sundays at 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern time, before all the Bears games, they get the job done with good research like AC has just displayed, and also just great fan, passionate F-bomb talk. I was listening this morning, and Bobby was on one of his famous rants. Like, fuck this, fuck that, fuck this. And so I put up on the screen, Bobby F-bombs.
Yeah. Bobby's a Marine, and he sure talks like it. That's there's no other way to put that. But I love those guys, man. We have a chemistry with each other that's you can't fake it, man. And when you get on a podcast family, and if you try to fake it, people are gonna know, man. And those guys, we're good friends. We text throughout the week. You know, we talk about things that are going on, and just being friends with them and having the chemistry. I love being a part of the bar room. I started out as a fan, and I'm so happy that you've given me a chance to have a platform, because I think I've talked to Badge about it before. My wife, she likes the Bears in Kentucky, but she calls me a walking, talking ESPN. Like I just was breaking down wide receivers right there. My father-in-law, he'll test me sometimes. We'll be watching the game, and he'll be like, well, who's that guy? And I'm like, well, it's like I think today Reeves Maben went down, and before they even talked about him for the Lions, I was like, well, he used to play linebacker at Tennessee. And then I heard them saying, I was like, well, fuck, yeah, he did.
I love it. So and that's what I love about the network that we've all developed here. We've all put this together. People who are here now and people who have been here in the past. We've put together always diverse shows. So you can turn to a show where you've got, guys who have radio experience like a Mike North, guys who have been in the game of football like Greg Gabriel, guys who have Bears blood running through them like John Buffone. And then you get average fans, fans who are passionate and know their stuff like AC and Badge and Bobby and RK, all of those guys who are the co-hosts of the Barfly Tailgate Show. And so that's what I love about what we are delivering here to fans, just a lot of diversity, a lot of different thoughts on stuff. And I'm the lucky guy that you're a part of the Barroom Network. And please tell your wife that I said happy Thanksgiving and your entire family, but particularly your wife, because she allows you so much time to do this and to prep for it and stuff. We're really indebted to her and to you, man.
Oh, I appreciate it. And she should be home here in about an hour or so. And I'll let her know that I hopped on with you and you said hello. She had a great time meeting you in Cleveland. We had a wild night, and I wasn't able to get up for the show the next morning, but we had a good time, and we definitely got to get another game together. I'd love to go to Soldier Field. It's on the bucket list. But she doesn't really like cold weather games, so we gotta try to pick an earlier An earlier game.
2022 in September. Let's target a game, and we'll get the honeymoon suite ready here at the house for you and your wife, and bring the little one too. We got all sorts of games. Our house has always been kid friendly. So when people bring their kids over, you know, they can destroy stuff and play and have got toys all around and stuff. And we never want to have a home that is one of those homes where people, you know, people are like saying, no,
like a museum.
Yeah, no, that's not us. I make fart jokes at home in front of the kids and try to make them laugh and stuff. So if you're willing to bring the family over to that type of environment, we've got it here for you, brother.
Well, Scotty's we're buying him a season ticket next year, so he's going to get used to going to watch Kentucky. I took him to the Kentucky game last week. They played New Mexico State because I was like, you know, if we get up early, it was a noon kickoff. You know, if we start beating them pretty well, if I leave early, it's not going to be a close game. It's not a rival game, so it doesn't matter to me if we leave. I just want to see how he does it, and I swear the kid went to eat. I think if anyone follows me on Facebook, I posted all the pictures on there. He wanted Kona ice before we got in, which is like a snow cone basically. I'm like, it's barely 50 degrees. You want a snow cone? We get in the stadium. He wanted cotton candy, and then he wanted a hot dog. You know, how am I going to tell him no? I mean, it's his first ball game. He's got to experience the stadium food,
right.
So we had a good time, and I'm getting him a ticket next year to go with us, and so he'll get used to watching football games, and I'll talk to the wife about trying to get up there to Chicago. We'll go get a pizza. We're Aurelio's Pizza people. I don't know if you know about them in Homewood.
Well, you guys were telling me about it down in Cleveland when we met you. Yeah, it's on my list of pizza places to go to for sure.
That's our Chicago pizza. Everyone's got their favorite, and Aurelio's is ours. And so we'll work something out next year, I think, and get to a ball game. I think it'll be a lot of fun, Aldo.
Yeah, it will be a lot of fun, and I've got this on my bucket list too, is to set up some kind of event, and maybe we can do this in 2022 where we get a lot of the Barflies, a lot of fans together, even if it's in my backyard, you know, for a September game, have show hosts and Barflies, 20, 30, 40, 50 people here just having a good time. That would be a thrill for me.
Throw some food on the grill.
There you go. And a lot of cold beer. And
hey,
that would be
I'm a Bud Light guy myself, so I'm down with that.
Tell me if you've experienced this. How haven't you made like a lot more new friends as being a part of the bar room? Right? It's like people are contacting me all the time, and it's been awesome interacting with people online and sometimes face to face with the people that I've met because of this endeavor, the bar room.
Oh yeah, you know, I've been on Twitter for years. My wife, she's always like, why are you on Twitter? And I'm like, I'm a sports addict. The first place it breaks is Twitter. That's why I'm on Twitter. And then since joining the bar room, my followers have increased so much, and talking to people from all over the world, not just, you know, Americans. Like you were talking about Chris earlier, over in across the pond. And, you know, we've got such, you know, when people say, you know, here we're not just, it's not just work, we're a family. Like when I say that about the bar room, a lot of people say it like it's bullshit, but it really feels like it here at the bar room. I mean, I've been here so long, I've got the old,
I love it,
old logo.
I was thinking about wearing my old one because it got a little cold down here in the basement, and I was looking at hoodies, and I was gonna wear an old Bears Barroom hoodie just like that one, that design, and then I said, you know what, I'll just fucking put the heat up.
Yeah.
I want to be comfortable in a nice t-shirt. Oh man, it's been great. Bear Truth 9 wants to know where Don Burr is. You know what? Don Burr has been a delight to have him in the chat room. You know, he's on so many of our shows. He's always bragging about Detroit and his team and so forth. But yeah, where the fuck are you, Don?
He's probably crying tears in his beer right now. I mean,
I made the joke earlier this morning. I think it was during the Barfly Tailgate show. I think he's probably down the block turning on a fire, a car fire or something. He lives in Detroit.
yeah. He's in some abandoned building somewhere, right?
Exactly. All right, Mr. Aaron Curran. Again, tell your family I said happy Thanksgiving, and to all of the people out there who have watched all of our program or any of our programming here at the Barroom Network. I can't tell you how indebted we are, and we would love for you to continue to listen and tell people about what we're doing here. We'd love to have more and more fans interact with us during the Barfly Tailgate show, during the Dan and Aldo show, during all these shows that we are doing. It is what
we cover everything. I mean, you've got Bar Down Blackhawks, you've got Crosstown Crosstalk, which has become one of my favorite shows because
right?
I'm a Cubs fan, and the Sox have had all the momentum lately, but they don't only talk about those two teams. They talk about you know, the MLB overall too, you know, and
that's the great thing about those guys. For their NHL show and their Cubs Sox show, they know the leagues. They know NHL and MLB. They can talk about any team with a lot of knowledge. Yeah, those guys are great. The Parisi brothers, Vinny and Joey, and now on their hockey show, they got Frankie Mueller as the third guy, which is a great addition because he's a diehard Blackhawks fan, and so that's kind of a cool addition on that show. So so and then we've got the Chicago Bulls probably
they're red hot.
Oh my goodness. They lost a couple of games. They've got some injury issues right now, but that team looks like they could be the best team in the Eastern Conference. They really can.
You talked about eating crow on Robert Quinn. I got to eat crow on Lonzo Ball, man. This is a guy who I've hated on since college. Really? And a lot of that is from my Kentucky fandom when De'Aaron Fox just kind of took him to school, and Lonzo Ball was this big superstar figure, and De'Aaron Fox was just quietly did his thing here at Kentucky. But I like what Lonzo Ball's doing. He's facilitating, he's scoring, he's fixed his shot, it seems like, and he's exciting to watch. He's got his hair in cornrows now, and that's different. But his dad's not around all the time, which I thought was going to be the biggest thing. I was like, man, you bring him in, it's going to bring the Ball family with him, and it's going to be a distraction.
Mainly just the father, right? That
right,
distraction. So I was a little concerned about that too. Not that I've witnessed a lot of weird stuff, but there have been a couple of things that I've seen on TV or in social media of him, being. Like bragging, like I could beat Michael.
Always talking.
Yeah,
he said he never lost, and he said he could beat Jordan 1-on-1. Then he picks up his whole family and moves them to Lithuania so they can get paid to play basketball in high school.
Oh, that's right.
And then moves them back it's just a wild family. I think they had a reality show for a while there, and that's another thing about Lonzo. I didn't watch I think it was called Ball is Life or something. Life. I don't know, but it showed Lonzo Ball. They went to this steak dinner place. He has his girlfriend cut his steak up for him. He said he's never cut. And I was like, dude, how are you gonna? You might as well just turn in your man card. If you can't even cut your own steak, like you're that much of a I don't know how else to say it other than a little rich bitch. Entitled.
Entitled rich bitch. Both of us.
To not even cut your own steak. It just rubbed me the wrong way. But what he does on the court, I'll eat crow on that. But,
absolutely. Yeah, as long as they're not hurting anybody off the court, then I don't care what their demeanor, behavior, character is. Go out there and play basketball and win us some games, and hopefully we'll get that from the Chicago Bears. I think I got to run to the washroom, and I don't want to cut this off real quickly. So what I'm going to ask you to do I got a commercial I can run? Do you still have a few minutes?
Yeah, my wife's going to be home probably an hour or so I've got time.
Let me see if I got something I can run here.
I might run in P too if you're
all right.
If you're gonna run a commercial.
Yes, you go do that, and I'll run a commercial. All right.
All righty.
All righty. All right, I got to find a nice little commercial. Hey, this is what I'm going to do. This because I don't have any commercials loaded up here that will take as much time as I need to run to the washroom. But here's one thing that I'd love for you to see. Back, if you were with us 3 hours ago when we started the show, we mentioned the whole Dave McGinnis situation where he was supposedly hired by the Chicago Bears. They announced it to the media, and he heard it on a limousine ride to the airport. And he says, "Wait a minute, how can they be announcing it? We didn't agree on any of the money. We didn't agree on anything." And Michael McCaskey, who was then the chairman and CEO, president of the Chicago Bears, he looked like a complete raving idiot. So I'm going to play this while I go to the washroom, and here's a little Bears history about one of the biggest snafus in Chicago Bears history, the hiring, or I should say non-hiring, of Dave McGinnis, who was a coordinator with the Cardinals and a former Chicago Bears coach, and the Bears wanted him to be the head coach. Here's what happened.
The Bears did all they could to try to put a favorable spin on the debacle. Dave McGinnis, like Michael McCaskey, wouldn't go into specifics on why he withdrew his name from consideration, but McCaskey said it wasn't about money and suggested McGinnis just got cold feet.
I don't understand it fully, and you'd have to ask him. I think he considered it a question of whether this was the right time and the right fit.
If I'm a defensive coordinator at Phoenix and I have a chance to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears, I'm going to get the job done if I want the job. I'll get through whatever I have to get through, and I'm not putting it on Mac. I'm just telling you how I feel. Because if I'm in that situation and I want to be a head football coach in the National Football League, I'm going to get the deal done. I really feel that way. And if it didn't get done, he wasn't the right person.
Obviously, we couldn't reach an agreement. I mean, it started, there was an announcement made, obviously, before we had even agreed to any terms, and then it went downhill from there.
Dave had given his word to several people that we would talk to them personally, being our families, Mr. Bidwell, Vince, and that didn't happen. And
one of the most bizarre things that's happened in NFL
it was
history.
just not right.
McCaskey refused to take responsibility for the premature announcement, inferring that it was the fault of someone else in the organization, but all the evidence points back to him. I asked him to what degree he felt that mistake led to a breakdown in the negotiations.
It sure didn't help that there was a premature announcement.
This has not been, a confrontational type deal. I mean, it's been very amiable, and, this stuff happens in this business. I mean, it
doesn't, Dave. It doesn't happen like this. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Well, I guess you're never announced before you're offered the job. I mean, I understand that, Brad.
When Dave McGinnis wakes up tomorrow morning, maybe all this will seem like a bad dream. But it's going to be a while before the Bears can make the nightmare disappear. This once proud franchise has become the laughingstock, not only of the city, but the National Football League. From Hallis Hall, Brad Palmer, ABC 7 News.
Brad Palmer telling it like it is. The Chicago Bears embarrassed themselves. They embarrassed the city with that premature announcement that they had a new head coach. But the coach said, "Hey, I didn't sign anything. We didn't agree on money." But they went ahead and made the announcement. And for McCaskey not to take the blame and said that it was somebody else, even if it was somebody else, the buck stops with him. And so the reason I played that is because, boy, doesn't it feel awfully similar to what happened this week in terms of management bungling this whole Nagy's going to be fired, he's not fired. If it was a false report, they should have come out immediately and said, this is bullshit. We've never told Nagy that he was going to be fired after the Detroit game, So it's this organization needs changes from the very, very top, and that top is the McCaskey family.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, Badge broke it down, the numbers this morning. I think he said when he turned 18, it was like 98, and they've had like 7 winning seasons since that year. That's 20 plus years. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
so,
I got to find that portion. That's a good little promo for our "We Give a Shit" segment.
Yeah, like more than half the years in the last 20 years, we have had losing seasons. And like he said, the laughing stock of the league. Like I said, I go to work, I'm the only Bears fan there. And a lot of people are like, how? Why? What is the reason? Like, why are you a Bears fan? And honestly, I started being a Bears fan, when I met my wife and we got married, and that was back in 2009, we had, Urlacher and Tillman and Briggs and Cutler, and I don't remember who we had at safety, but it was a fun team to watch. Hester was the first jersey I ever had. I had the orange Devin Hester jersey.
Mike Brown at safety. Did you mention Mike Brown?
Was he the one that I couldn't remember if that was after him or if it was during him? But Mike Brown was one of my favorites too when he was on the field. But he seemed like he had injury concerns, but he was great when he was out there.
Yeah, the back-to-back weeks where he scored game-winning touchdowns off of interceptions. That was freaking fantastic.
I think one of those was against Tim Couch, speaking of Kentucky.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, what do you think about what Douglas says here? He says, Justin Fields has yet to prove himself. No way I build the team around him. What do you think about that?
It's difficult to say that he's proven himself because we've seen him look good and sometimes we've still come up short. He looked really good in the second half of Pittsburgh. He looked good, he's looked good in spurts, but I think a lot of that has to do with scheme and head coaching. I don't think it's on Justin Fields.
Right.
What we saw him do in college, now granted that's Ohio State, it's Big Ten, defenses or whatever. It's a whole different level at this level, but I really believe, and I've come on here and talked about it. The Bears finally got the quarterback that I wanted. In 2017, I wanted Deshaun Watson because he went head to head with Nick Saban at Alabama, and I think he won one of those games. And I wanted him because of that, and I thought Trubisky hadn't shown anything. Actually, when the pre-draft process, when I was looking at quarterbacks, to me it was Watson, and then it was Trubisky was third. I don't even remember who I had second. Trubisky was I think I had Watson, Mahomes, Trubisky, and then I had the Notre Dame quarterback. I can't even remember his name now, but he was fourth.
Kaiser.
Yeah, and I know Marshaw liked him a lot.
Yeah, you liked him a lot.
But the guy I wanted was Watson because he was a proven winner at a big college, and but they didn't grab him. And this year I wanted Justin Fields, and we went up and got him, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's like speaking of the quarterbacks that came out, all five of them I thought are guys that you can build a team around. You've got to forecast, what is going to happen. So Douglas, when you say he hasn't proven himself, you got to look at it like he's a child, and that you've got to give that child the best schools, the best diet, the best home accommodations, a nice warm bed to sleep. That's how you develop a quarterback. Very, very rarely are you going to find a quarterback in college who can, in his first year as a starter, have Patrick Mahomes type numbers. You got to develop them and so forth. And so by looking at what Justin Fields has done in college, excellent college performance, and then by looking at his physical athletic traits that he has displayed so far in the NFL, I think there should be a lot of hope. And you have to build around them, because if not, what are you going to do? You're going to draft another quarterback this year? Can't do that. You can't do it.
It's a completely different situation. Like Arizona, when they had Josh Rosen, nothing that, like, he was a guy who they put in place and they realized he wasn't the guy. They went out and got another guy in Kyler Murray. So there's two things with that. Justin Fields has shown promise. Justin Fields has shown the ability to make plays. I feel like my biggest issue with him is the fumbles. He's got to fix that. I don't know what's causing it, but he's got to fix the fumbles. It seems like every time he gets hit back there, it's loose, and I don't know what. I guess that can go back to DeFilippo's got to get that figured out of why that's happening and how to fix it. But I feel like he's shown you enough to build around him, whereas Josh Rosen in Arizona, he didn't show him anything. So they moved on and went and got Kyler Murray. And now look what they're doing. They're number one seed in the NFC. Even when Kyler Murray's out, they won 2 ball games with Colt McCoy. the former Texas quarterback up out there in Arizona. So I feel like he's a guy you can build around, and he's the guy I wanted.
At this point of the game, I feel better about building around Justin Fields than I did about Mitch Trubisky. I always said prior to the Bears making that draft pick that Mitch was a second-round talent, and I still believe it to this day. Now, I think he could have had more success here in Chicago if Matt Nagy was not his head coach, and if he had a coach that would have said, okay, I need a really strong run game. So he could have played at a higher level if you would have had less relying on him throwing the ball. You've had good running backs with Trubisky in Chicago. You had Jordan Howard, and you should have used him while the guy was learning the NFL. But no, they always put him in dangerous situations. Nagy was reluctant to build an offense that was around his skills. They didn't bring me in here to run the I formation. And so that
pissed me off.
Oh my gosh, one of the worst things ever a coach could say. Basically showing this is about me, man. This is not about winning. It's not about winning. Fuck that. It's about me.
A good head coach, a great head coach builds a system around the players' strengths. We see it year in and year out with the top head coaches in the playoffs. Bill Belichick always did it. He knew Tom Brady couldn't run, so he built a system around what he could do, which was, for the most part, short, accurate passes. So he built the Edelmans, the Amendolas, those, for lack of a better term, the short white guys that come across the middle. They built a system around it, and they made superstars out of it.
Yep.
You see it in Tampa Bay now. Bruce Arians, he had a completely different system.
That's right.
When he talked to his quarterback, Brady, what do you want? What works? And now look what they're doing. They're contending. You see it in one of my favorite head coaches in the league, Sean Payton. And every Saints fan I ever meet, I tell him, I am so jealous of your head coach, because he does the same thing. He builds his offense around the talent that he has. And for years he had Drew Brees, which is easier to build around. Yep. But even when Drew Brees' arm talent went down last year, when age started to catch up with him, he adjusted his system to work for the guys he's got. Now he's got Jameis Winston, and he's got a completely different system for him. Trevor Siemian, they plugged him in. Trevor Siemian from Northwestern. And I had to start him last week because I had Kyler Murray as my fantasy guy, and I had to pick someone up off the scrap heap, and the only guy there was Trevor Siemian. I grabbed him. He put up 30 fantasy points for me.
Unbelievable.
So that's what good coaches do. We don't seem to get them here in Chicago, and that has got to change. And just like you said, that goes all the way to the top, because we've seen it for years and years and years.
Yep. Matthew says,
I don't see it changing,
to your talent, not talent to your scheme. And Bear Truth adds, like today's game, Dalton should have been under center 95% of the time and ran the offense through Montgomery and then the run game. I agree. I think, said this in, I think, the first half hour of this 3+ hour show, that today's I know. Today's play calling showed to me that Matt Nagy was like, I'm going to show them what this offense can do. Andy, throw, baby, throw, baby, throw. And it wasn't like a cohesive, well thought out game plan where you build off the run. What's his name did get 16, 17 carries today, David Montgomery, but it still wasn't enough. I think they were almost trying to show off that the passing game could work. And perhaps, I don't blame him, because he's like, okay, I'm a lame duck, so let me fucking prove to people that my offense can work. Let's throw the ball. It seems like nobody else in Chicago gives a shit about wins anymore. That's another pet peeve that I have. They just want the Bears to lose so that we can get rid of Nagy. No, we could still win games and get rid of Nagy. I want to win. I wouldn't be talking here for 3 hours and 15 minutes with a smile on my face if we would have lost. There's no way. I would have been a miserable old fuck.
Yeah, it would have been an hour-long show.
Exactly. And then I would have gone kick the dog. By the way, I'm just kidding.
Don't come after us, Peter.
Exactly. All right. Any final thoughts you have? And then let's get out of here. I know that your wife is going to be home any minute, and my wife will be, hopefully with a nice big plate of turkey or something.
Yeah, go get you some Thanksgiving dinner, Aldo. Final thoughts, man. Just happy Thanksgiving to all the barflies and the barroom fans. You guys are the best. I mean, just like Aldo said, we've been here for 3 hours now between myself and Dan, and we've still got almost 30 people in the chat. I mean, on a Thanksgiving day, and that doesn't even count the people that are watching on YouTube TV or
Twitter,
any of those devices, So shout out to all y'all, man, and I appreciate y'all coming here and, like I said before, allowing me to have a platform, and just listen to me talk. Sometimes I might be full of shit, but every once in a while I might hit on one or two things, and I sure do appreciate y'all coming with us every Sunday and letting us vent. We call it our therapy session on the Barfly Tailgate Show.
Exactly.
Helps us get it off our chest, and a lot of our family are tired of hearing about, like, I think Badge said it today, the two things we've talked about seems like all years. Let's see what Justin Fields has got, and is Nagy still the head coach? And that feels pretty accurate. And my wife, I'm sure, is tired of hearing about it. But I'm from Kentucky, King Pookie. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess up your
Pookie
name.
Nation Alvarez. He actually came out to meet Dan and myself when Dan was in town, and we had a few beers. Thank you, King Pookie, for buying those. His real name is Beto Alvarez. Actually, it's Beto is short for something else, which I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, but King Pookie is a great guy. Matthew Fuchisi says, great show. Thanks for going late. Party is boring. Edibles and booze time. There you go, brother. I love it.
Those edibles are illegal here in Kentucky. But,
oh, they are still, huh?
Yeah.
What the hell?
And even if they were legalized, I don't know if Toyota would let us use them,
Yeah,
heavy machinery and stuff.
I wouldn't advise it, that's for sure. I can't even a hammer and a nail. I can't do that. I'm going to share a funny story about that in some future show. But anyways, Bear True says, final thoughts. Has Nagy got fired yet? No, they're going to let him enjoy his Thanksgiving dinner with his family. Might happen tomorrow. I think there's a very, very, very small chance it'll happen tomorrow. But
I think if it doesn't happen either tomorrow or this weekend, he'll be here to finish the season. There's no other long weeks to allow someone else to get in there and try and be the head coach.
That is true. I mean, and that's what is disturbing about it, because again, that NFL rule, brand new rule, which allows you to interview coaching candidates week 17 and week 18, those final 2 weeks of the regular season. So if you are going to get a head start on interviewing some of these candidates, not that means a whole lot, but it does a little bit, then he should be, now would have been the perfect time, because you've got an extra week of a week plus a few days to get the new interim coach up to speed on stuff. But the way the Bears do things, it's like the whole Dave McGinnis thing. It's all fucked up, man. It's all fucked up.
And that week 17 matchup with the Giants, man, it'll be the Giants might I don't know if they'll want to win that or lose that, because they get our draft pick in the first round. They might have two.
I forgot about that. That's a great point.
They might have 2 top 10 draft picks coming into that.
You know what you're going to see, right? The week beforehand, you're going to see a lot of their top players.
They're going to put Saquon Barkley on IR. And
Exactly. Everybody on the practice squad, suit up. You're starting. That's what they're going to do, brother. You can bet on that. All right, everybody. For AC, I am Aldo Gandia. Our next Bears broadcast is actually tomorrow. Greg Gabriel has a lot to get off his chest. He is not happy with everything that's been going on, particularly with the media and all these reports. So he desperately wants to not only talk about the game today, but he wants to talk about all this stuff. He's not a happy man, so that should be can't miss radio, TV, however you're going to watch it. And the best way to know what time it's going to happen is to give us a follow here on our YouTube channel or follow us at Barroom Network on Twitter. I
love Greg. I heard we got family that, extended family they became Packers fans when they drafted Randall Cobb. Mm-hmm. And I believe Greg Gabriel's told the story before that they scouted Randall Cobb, but Randall Cobb, when he was coming out, he was considered a punt returner, kick return type guy who may or may not end up being a good wide receiver. And we had Devin Hester at the time, which kind of pushed him down our draft board. And I told them that, and they were like, yeah, I guess I could see that. Devin Hester was the best punt returner of all time. So yeah, that would push your draft board a little different.
Yep. And Hester should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You with me on that?
He is up for this. Yeah, I mean, the way he changed the game. I mean, nowadays just the kickoffs and everything has been changed, and that's due to partly player safety, and then but the way he was able to affect the game. I mean, if any Bears fan, and I wasn't at the time, I wasn't a Bears fan. I was an Urlacher fan though. When they played the Super Bowl, I played linebacker in high school, so Urlacher was one of my favorites. Him and a guy down in I'm sorry to continue to drag your show out, man, but Urlacher was one of my favorites, and Zach Thomas down in Miami was one of my other favorite middle linebackers in the NFL. I wanted the number 54 for that reason, but a senior had it, so I grabbed the number 50. So I was like, that's why my Kentucky jersey's 50. But I was like, who's the big 50? And the biggest 50 I knew of was Singletary. So I still had a love for the Bears, especially on defense. But I said all that to say this: who in the world thought, after Hester returned that opening kickoff to the Super Bowl, who in the world thought the Bears were going to lose that ball game? Yeah. Nobody did.
I went into that game expecting the Colts to win, but after that kick return, I said, we're going to fucking win. There's no fucking way we're going to lose.
It was rainy. We had good defense. We ran the ball. That's how they got to the Super Bowl, was running the ball. And then all of a sudden they said, oh, yeah, we're going to put the ball in the hands of old Sexy Rexy. Speaking of which, I know Dan had a fat head of him, and I wanted to bring it up earlier. My brother, he's never been a big Bears fan. He's like the Ravens, but he's not like me, like a fanatic, like I study the game. But he watches as a fan. But he actually one year got me a Bears jersey for Christmas. He didn't know any of the players or anything. So I opened this jersey, and it was, I don't know, it wasn't too long ago, honestly. And it was a Rex Grossman jersey. And I was like, I'm not going to, it never made it out of the closet. That jersey just hung up in there, and I never wore it.
If we ever do a show together with Dan, the three of us, you got to wear that.
I don't even think I have it anymore.
And it's funny though, because over the last couple of years, not in the last year, but prior to that, I got a lot of Mitch Trubisky gifts, like an autographed Mitch Trubisky football, a Mitch Trubisky jersey. Somebody gave me a framed picture of Mitch Trubisky. And it's like, every time they gave it to me, I was like, oh, yeah, nice. This is beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think this guy's going to make it. This is going to be in the back of my closet, or with all my other souvenirs that are piled up over there, that it's not prominent anywhere. And it's a shame. That's why I always like to rely. I say this story all the time. I like to rely when I buy Bears paraphernalia that's about a player. It's got to be retro. I want a player that has proven themselves over at least 5, 6, 7 years, and that they are great and they deserve for their jersey to be on this fucking body right here.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. I have throwbacks, obviously. Walter Payton, I've got hanging up here. I've got jerseys down here in my basement that I can just think of off the top of my head. I've got Urlacher, Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall's running around here somewhere. But the jerseys that I wear, like if we're going somewhere to watch the ball game, I like to wear somebody that I'm going to see playing. And I was telling the guys just a couple of weeks ago, I got to get a new blue jersey because my navy blue ones that I have, I got Trubisky and I've got Eddie Jackson's 39. It's not even the number 4.
That's right.
I think I'd like to wait until Roquan gets re-signed, but I think I'm gonna get that one. I really like Roquan. I think he's continued the lineage at middle linebacker, and I also like the Jalen Johnsons. So those might be the 2 jerseys I get this offseason.
Yeah, Jalen would be nice. I love that number too, 33. Matthew for Cheesy says, I'm hearing Joe Lombardi as a head coaching candidate. Plus, it'll piss off Green Bay and Lombardi working in Chicago. Yeah, that would be funny. It would be nice to kind of dig it in to the Packers. But here's my concern about Joe Lombardi. I know him very well when he was the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, and that was a mess. That was a mess. He had come from the Saints, where he was like a quarterback coach or something like that. The Lions hired him as offensive coordinator, and that was a mess. Now, I know he's having much more success, and I'm forgetting what team he's calling the plays for now, but he's having much more success, so maybe he's progressed. But my limited knowledge of Joe Lombardi is that I'm not too impressed by what he has done in the past. Up until, 2 or 3 years ago. So we'll see.
The Sports Mockery article that I was talking about earlier that talked about Todd Bowles. It also had Josh McDaniels on that list. And Joe Lombardi was one of the guys on that list. But the only 2 that I had any interest in was really Bowles and McDaniels. Just more McDaniels because of, again, he's fixed his offense to whatever talent he has. You know, he had Brady, and then he had Cam Newton, who couldn't throw the ball anymore. At the time, he had the shoulder issue. So he fixed his offense to what he had, and then they brought in Mac Jones, and he's fixed the offense to what he's got now. I think they showed Mac Jones's passing chart, and everything was in like 15 yards or something. So they're not even asking this guy to push the ball down the field. They're just winning ball games. And we talked about the college or the rookie quarterbacks earlier today, and Mac Jones went to the perfect situation. That team, they picked 20th, and they had almost their entire defense had opted out last year for COVID. So they got all those guys back, still end up with a hell of a quarterback, you know, and they always draft well. They always have good O-line play. It's a franchise that's always great, but it seems like no one can duplicate it. Whenever someone grabs someone from the Belichick coaching tree,
right?
For whatever reason, it doesn't work, and I don't know the reason for that. They tried it in Detroit, and it failed miserably. They tried it in Miami. They're not looking great, but they've got a ton of draft picks. That might be a team to look out for soon. But
I wonder if they'd like to trade some of those draft picks over here to Chicago, like, you know, I don't know, for Akeem Hicks. That ain't gonna happen. Akeem might have played his last game with the Chicago Bears. What do you think?
I think he'll play some more games this season, but
he's got to prove to free agent, you know, because he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So he's got to prove to people that he still has gas in that tank. He should try to come back, right?
I think he should. And I love Akeem Hicks. He's one of my favorite players.
Me too. But
the heart that he shows, and they won't re-sign him. And like I said earlier, Trevathan will be another one of those guys. I think he's played his last game in a Bears uniform.
Another one of those big free agent signees that Ryan Pace made that you had to wonder why. Why him over Nick Kwiatkowski? Why Tariq Cohen after seeing him for 4 years running towards the sidelines because he can't take the physical punishment, you know, as the season wears on. I'm not saying that he's that way every game, but for the last 2 full seasons that he played with the Bears, it started to look to me like he would run to the sidelines. And people were bringing that up in social media, and he was doing back and forth on social media with fans about that. And it just tells you, why would you re-sign this guy? He doesn't have the bulk, you know, like Darren Sproles when he came out. That dude was built and stayed that way and even built on that. And Tariq is never going to add that kind of durability, that kind of muscle talent. So,
and statistically speaking, as far as replacing positions via the draft, running back is one of the easiest ones to do.
Exactly. Look at Khalil Herbert right now.
Herbert, you know.
Exactly.
Jordan Howard, we grabbed him in the 5th or 6th round, and he came in and set a rookie record for rushing yards. You don't have to, and that's why the Giants have been crapped on, because they passed on a quarterback for Saquon Barkley when they were up there high in the draft, and I don't think they grabbed the right offensive tackle last year. I think it was last year, the year that Jedrick Wills came out.
That was 2019. He was in the 2020 draft.
Yeah, so that I thought Wills was the best offensive tackle on the board. I am biased because he's from Lexington, but I thought he was the best one there, and they passed on.
No doubt about it.
But,
you got another.
I hate seeing Trevathan the way it's going for him. Just because he's a Kentucky guy, but you did talk about why did they resign him over Kwiatkowski. I think we had Josh Woods come on when Phil and Shane were here. They came on the show with him, and he basically said Trevathan was the leader of the defense. I think that had a lot to do with him being re-signed. I don't know if they thought Roquan was ready to step into that role or be forced into that role, or how that would turn out. So they re-signed him instead of Kwiatkowski.
I just think that sometimes you could put too much emphasis on that, being a locker room leader. First and foremost, you got to be a player in the locker room. And it's not like, even if Nick Kwiatkowski was not a locker room leader, he wasn't a locker room distraction, and you bring in new guys who can be leaders. I just feel like that's not good enough to have signed him to that kind of contract. I was frankly surprised. And I'm not a big fan of Nick Kwiatkowski. It's not like he's been lighting the Raiders on fire with his play.
Right.
But I'm just thinking in terms of money, he was a better value than Trevathan. But be that as it may, we'll be talking about that and a hell of a lot more over the coming weeks. And AC, I know that I'd love to get you involved in our Draft on Tap show and some of our other draft coverage. So I really enjoy being on the air with you. So let's not make this the last time. Let's do it again. And I want you to tell your family that from everyone at the bar room, we really appreciate everything that they allow you to do, and how much we really appreciate the entire Current family.
Well, I do appreciate that. My wife actually just called me while you were talking, so
there you go. I thought
probably just got off work. Yeah, she probably just got off work because she always calls me when she's on her way home.
All right, I have plenty of sex tonight, right?
I'll see if I can get it in. I've been getting up at 4:30, so about 9 o'clock or 9:30, I'm usually like barely awake still. So,
well, if you have really good sex, let's talk about it on our next Dan and Aldo show.
We'll see.
All right, everybody. Greg Gabriel and I will be here tomorrow, sometime midday. We'll let you know. And thanks a lot for sticking around. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and your loved ones. And bear down. We got to win.
Bear down.
All right.